season started, were considered at the top of the AFC with the Chiefs. They were two of the teams that people talked about. Like, all right, who is the team to beat against the Chiefs this year? Well, you got the Ravens, you got the Bengals, you got the Bills,
Texans,
Dolphins, Texans. You got a number of these teams that will compete with the Kansas City Chiefs for AFC superiority. And what we watched last night was one team that is legitimately a Super Bowl contender. I should put in Jacksonville as well as a team that people talked about. Hey, what can this team do?
Not this guy.
I know, but what can this team do this year? Jacksonville, and they are 0-3. The Cincinnati Bengals are 0-3. Buffalo is 3-0. The Ravens are 1-2. The Browns are 1-2, if people wanted to throw them into the mix. Miami's 1-2, and who knows? No set date for Tua to return. I love Skyler, but that was a rough game for him over the weekend. We're seeing teams separate themselves, but mainly what we're seeing are the teams that were supposed to be contenders are separating themselves the wrong way. Miami is separating themselves as a team that is not going to do much this year.
Yeah.
Without that quarterback situation going to be fixed, it's not there.
Even with him, they didn't look good. They were getting the doors beat
They were
off
down
them.
31-10 to the Bills when he got hurt.
Yeah.
So even if he doesn't get hurt and they score on that possession, it's 31-17. They're still getting, as you said, the doors blown off of them. The Ravens played some great football against Dallas. But there's a lot of people wondering what the heck is going on in Dallas, and that's a pretty awful defense that the Cowboys are running out there. And so I don't want to just poo-poo the Ravens' win against the Cowboys. They went on the road, had to save their season. It got nip-tuck at the end, but they dominated that game. I think there is an element of you're up by a decent amount in the fourth quarter and you kind of exhale a little bit. Okay, we were 0-2. All right, we did it. We did what we planned on doing. We took care of business. And then all of a sudden, snowball starts rolling down the hill, picking up more and more steam, and it's tough to fight back and get back into that mode. But they did. The last possession, they held it. They ran the clock out. They won the game. But they're 1-2 with a late loss against the Chiefs and a late loss against the Raiders. They could be 3-0, but they're not. They're 1-2. I don't put the Ravens in the same category as Jacksonville or Cleveland, certainly the Bengals or the Dolphins in teams that we thought could they compete this year, and they are proving through 3 weeks of the season that they are not up to snuff. The Bengals will now have to fight against historical precedent. This tweet was going around last night. 162 teams since 1990 have started the season 0-3. And 4 of them have made the playoffs. That's what Cincinnati is now fighting against. Are they good enough to get there? Yeah, they're good enough to get there. It helps that other teams are losing along the way. It helps that Jacksonville's 0-3, that Indianapolis is 1-2. It helps that, Miami is 1-2. It helps that Cleveland and Baltimore are 1-2. It helps that the Chargers, lost last weekend and, they're 2-1 and not 3-0. So other teams losing around them means that there's a better shot of them making the playoffs with 7 teams in the playoffs. And, so you get that extra wild card that's there. So, yeah, there's a better percentage chance of them making it this year than historically when you didn't have as many playoff teams. Sure. You had fewer games to play as well. So they have a longer runway by an extra game to catch up. And they've got an extra playoff spot to get there. So, yeah, the Bengals can make the postseason. And they would be dangerous because they've got some, playoff history.
And they have 3 legit wide receivers with Josevach looking way better than Tyler Boyd has the past 2 years, maybe, at least last year.
Yeah.
Josevach looks really good.
Mm-hmm. And getting T. Higgins back certainly helps. Yeah. Maybe it's coincidence, but Jamar Chase looked human the first 2 weeks of the season, and then T. Higgins returns to the field, and Jamar Chase has 140 and 2 touchdowns and looks like Jamar Chase again.
I will say the Commanders' game plan of one-on-one with a rookie cornerback was a bold decision against Jamar.
I don't disagree, but Joe Burrow's completion percentage over expected and his expected points added with Jamar Chase on the field only or T. Higgins on the field only without the other one.
Sure.
So Jamar Chase without T or T without Jamar, his completion percentage over expected and his expected points added are higher with T on the field without Jamar than Jamar on the field without T. Higgins. We'll see what they want to do there, but I think it is pretty interesting. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's not correlation causation. Maybe it is more of the, hey, let's put a rookie cornerback over here and Jamar Chase just burning him and Burrow dropping a couple of shots in the bucket. That certainly helps. But he looked pretty human the first couple of weeks. T. Higgins is out there. All of a sudden, Jamar Chase is going crazy out on the field. But, Jamar Chase is still a fantastic, phenomenal receiver.
Are you saying if the Bengals move on from T. Higgins that they should then move on from Joe and put in Jake Browning? That's what I gathered, that Joe's a system quarterback.
You know what I'm saying?
And Jake Browning's the elevator.
I am saying this incredibly enlightening take. All right, listen in because you will not hear this anywhere else, all right? This is, years and years of historians, theologians. You've got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. If T. Higgins isn't on the field with Jamar, it'll make it more difficult for Jamar to get open. I'm just saying. Don't come attacking me. I'm just saying. You're not going to hear that anywhere else. Nowhere else will you hear that opinion that with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase out there, the other benefits from the other on the field, that if one of them is not there, it will then make it more difficult for the person that is left behind. I don't care if anybody says that I'm crazy thinking that. But that's what I feel.
Do you want to hear another fact? Dylan, give me the noise.
Fact.
Joe Burrow is 29-25-1 in his starter career for the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Browning's 4-3. That's a better percentage, a better winning percentage. Jake Browning or Joe Burrow? It's Jake Browning. Just saying. I'm just saying.
I wanted to. I looked at that too, and I wanted to eliminate the first part of Burrow's career because it's a little unfair with taking over that without Jamar, right? So I went and looked at it since Joe Burrow and the Bengals walked off the field in 2022, the winners of that AFC Championship game in the 2021 season. From that point to today, Joe Burrow as a starting quarterback is 19-15. Don't give me the whole bleep about, well, yeah, but Mahomes walked into a great situation. Mahomes walked in with a team that was a playoff team, and he had Andy Reid. He had all those players around him. He was gifted all of that ability. Joe Burrow had to turn around the whole organization. Okay. So since the organization has been built up, since you were preparing for a Super Bowl and just knocked off that gifted quarterback, he's gifted certainly, but the quarterback that was gifted the situation that he fell into that isn't necessarily as good as his numbers say, he's just in a perfect situation, and it's more nurture than nature for him, where it's nature for Burrow and minimal nurture. That man is 19-15 since that day. Tell me more about these organizations that are built up and ready to go and plug in place. That's not even a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback taking over.
Sam Darnold 7-3 in that span.
I do love that stat. I mean, Burrow.
With Carolina, San Francisco, and Minnesota, he's 7-3 since 2022.
It eliminates any excuse. It eliminates any part of, well, yeah, but a lot of those losses by Burrow came in the first year and a half, when he was trying to rebuild the organization. Okay, you're right. I would say a team that just knocked off the Chiefs, that had 3 straight road games, that was getting ready for a Super Bowl, is pretty built. With Hendrickson, Bates, Awuzie, Bell. That's just on the defensive side. Reeder, Hill, just on the defensive side. Not to mention Mixon, Boyd, and Chase and Higgins on the offensive side. And that group is 19-15 since then. So that's pretty detrimental to Mahomes was gifted an offensive coordinator and a team that was already a playoff team. You are correct. That is a fact. It's also a fact since the Bengals walked off that field at Arrowhead Stadium, winners, Joe Burrow's 19-15.
Who did the Bengals blame last night for the loss?
The defense.
No, it has to be someone not on their team. It has to be a force, whether it's the referees.
Oh, the referees.
The
Chiefs
Chiefs somehow.
Sorry, it was the referees. It was the
Okay.
referees. I apologize. The Bengals have yet to lose a game, like an actual legit game. They've yet to lose one. Joe Burrow's 19-0 when the refs don't screw them over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When there's no script.
That's right.
But when there's a script.
0-15
Okay.
when you're
Yeah.
facing the other team and the refs.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
far,
Yeah.
Burrow since that, because they clearly got screwed by the refs in the Super Bowl when they had the Rams go down the field while leading, when they had a lead in the fourth quarter and Joe Burrow had not 1, not 2, not 3 different possessions with the lead in the Super Bowl and came up with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 points. 0. In the Super Bowl with the lead. Goose egg. Probably the ref's fault.
That makes more sense.
Well,
now.
remember,
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp didn't get held by Logan Wilson at the goal line.
No,
So,
he
there's,
didn't.
there's always one thing.
There's one thing. There's one thing there.
Yeah.
Certainly. Also, news out of Cincinnati: Trent Brown is out for the season.
That sucks.
So it is confirmed
That's brutal.
a season ender for their right tackle, Trent Brown. When Mims gets healthy, they'll be better at that spot than they were with Trent Brown, I believe.
Sure, but
But when he gets healthy.
yeah.
So they're now down both the guys that were going to be at the right tackle spot. Mims, they lost before the season started. I don't even know what the timeline is for him. I have no idea what the timeline is for Mims.
I want to give a shout out to the Commanders.
Yes,
in that
absolutely.
game
We're
because-
having fun. We're having fun at the Bengals' expense. Obviously, we're doing that while you can. Let's do
Yeah.
that. But you're right. Commanders deserve their flowers.
My goodness, what a game plan! What a game! The Stones to put multiple fourth downs to say, "Hey, Jane Daniels, we trust you.
Absolutely. man.
We trust you. We drafted you for a reason. Make a play. We trust you," and he did. I mean, and it wasn't like they took the foot off the gas. I mean, down the stretch, how many quarterbacks, how many teams in that situation say, you know what, throw one up down the sideline right there. I don't know if you're playing for a field goal or not. I don't know the situation. You could be, because that puts you up at that point. You'd go up 8, right? Was that what it would have been?
Yep. I think it was 8. Yeah.
And then he throws one of the best throws you'll see a quarterback make to Terry McLaurin. Great catch, by the way. Just, again, the stones of the Commanders in this game. It was such an enjoyable game to watch. If you're a Washington fan, I think you have to be thrilled. Terry McLaurin looks like the happiest he's ever been in his life.
Finally, after 2 weeks of not getting the football.
Well, and also after how many years of the quarterback play.
Yeah.
The Commanders look good. Allegretti and Andrew Wiley, Allegretti especially, I thought had a really good game. It was fun watching a couple former Chiefs out there. But, yeah, man, they're electric. They're fun.
By the way, well, I'll get to the by the way in a second. I don't know. This is only 3 weeks into the season, so we'll find out what ends up happening throughout their career. But when we were talking about the rookie quarterbacks and who we would draft, I went, and I don't remember, Dylan, what you had, but my group was Daniels, Penix, Williams, then May. Of those four, I didn't think Bo Nix was going to be drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
We were talking about the ones that were the first-round draft pick quarterbacks. How would you rank them? And I went Daniels, Michael Penix, and we'll see. Michael Penix may suck. And
Yeah.
and Jaden Daniels, this might be 3 weeks, and then he turns into a pumpkin. When you're not throwing to offensive linemen, how good are you? I mean, he's got one touchdown in his entire career when he doesn't throw to an offensive lineman. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
Just copying Mahomes. Huh?
Inflated. It's all scheme. He's scheme. He is he's a system quarterback that has half of his career touchdowns are to an offensive lineman.
By the way, he took someone's knees yesterday. That was an Allen Iverson crossover.
Yeah, he actually got to. They didn't exchange jerseys after the game. He gave the guy the jersey. The other guy gave him his knees, just to put up on the wall on the mantle there. But we'll see what happens. We haven't seen a down of Michael Penix yet in Atlanta. And Caleb Williams had his best game of the season on Sunday with 364 yards and a couple of touchdowns.
And a couple interceptions.
So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But I am not surprised by Jaden Daniels and what he's done in Washington. I'm not really surprised from what I've seen with Caleb Williams either. We haven't seen anything from Drake May except for one final series when the game was a blowout. And again, we didn't include Bo Nix in the rankings of that. But you had your hand up when I was talking about
No, I was with you. I was with Daniels. I just thought what he brings.
You had your hand up. Yes,
yes,
Sterling. Go for Sterling.
We were most in agreement. I went Daniels Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't bold enough to put Michael Penix Jr. over Caleb Williams, but
it may look stupid in a couple of years, right? I mean, who knows?
Jaden Daniels, after watching him at LSU and watching him just beat Missouri, it was. It's one of those things where
what a tall task that
no,
was.
No, but last year it kind of was.
You got
Dylan
Georgia,
Dylan
Georgia,
from the top
Bama,
row.
like all these other SEC schools.
No, he's saying specifically watching in person.
Okay.
In person.
He was at that game.
I was there.
Okay, gotcha.
But
My
I
heart
do
ripped
love.
out.
I do love the Dylan from the top rope. Yeah, tall task, beating Missouri.
Dude.
He was unbelievable that day, though. It was so annoying. It's like, hey, one guy on this field can beat you. Just don't let that guy beat you. What happened? He beat you.
Dylan. How the Jayhawks doing this year, pal?
Oh,
Come on.
Oh, now we're a fight.
No.
Come after my Wildcats. See what happens.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
One Daniels is crushing it.
That's true.
One Jay Daniels.
That is true.
Why are you gonna throw a dart at Jalen Daniels?
I like him a
Why
lot
is he catching
too.
a stray?
I'm sorry,
Why is-
Jalen.
why
I
is
like
Jalen
you a
Daniels
lot.
catching
You're
a stray?
you're a very nice man.
Yes, very
But
nice. You know?
Dylan got me riled up back there. Blame Dylan.
Anyway, you watch Jaden Daniels in person beat Missouri Tigers.
And he just looked special. Like, he looked different. Like, sometimes you see someone in person, you're like, no, that's different. I remember when I saw Will Levis in person, I go, that's generic. Like I get
his
the
arm is different.
No, like, but
he can throw it through a brick wall.
But
Cool.
Joe Milton can too for Tennessee,
I agree.
and you're like, and Tyler Bray could for, and you're like, yeah, but you have to have it's like a 40 guy who's really fast, but he's not a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It's the John Ross, the Darius Hayward Bay. It's like they could test well, they can look good, but where's the game action? When I saw Will Levis, I go, okay, the arm strength's lovely, but I don't see the game. I don't see this replicating in a game.
Yeah.
And then, but with Jaden Daniels, you're like, you saw it all.
Yeah.
You saw what he brought to the table. I'm just enamored by his transition this early on. I know people want to try and compare him to someone. Is he Lamar Jackson? I think he's almost like a Kyler Murray type. Not a knock. I think Kyler Murray's actually perpetually underrated now at this point in his career. But that's kind of what he brings to the table, a really good arm. Not an elite arm, but a really good arm, and just the quickness and the ability to extend plays. How many times did he get out of situations and kept his eyes downfield? Mm-hmm. It wasn't always looking to run. It was also keeping his eyes down the field.
He does need to take less shots. He's taken some bigger hits, and we talked about Lamar Jackson's ability to slither through and never take a big hit, and his injuries have come in the pocket. So when he's out, scrambling, Lamar Jackson's pretty good at avoiding a big hit. Jaden Daniels has taken some big hits already in 3 weeks. I could probably argue that if I put together a clip of Lamar Jackson running the football and scrambling, that you might see as many or more Jaden Daniels, like big square-on hits this early in his career than maybe Lamar has since he's gotten the league and started starting late in 2018. I don't know. But had that ability. Jaden Daniels is going to have to get better about that.
Yeah.
He's too slight of frame to be taking those hits.
He slid once.
He did. He also lowered his shoulder and took 2 linebackers on. You know,
Did you see the coaches when he slid? And they all started clapping like, yeah!
I was going to say, I joked that did they fire everyone in the building from the Snyder era to the point where no one could remind them about what happened to RG3? Like, hey, we did this before. Let's go ahead and get some slides in here.
It is also amazing. Like so Jaden Daniels may turn out to be bad. He may turn out to be terrible, and Caleb Williams might be the next Patrick Mahomes, and Penix might be awful, and it might be Caleb Williams and Drake May that I ranked 3 and 4 of this quarterback class. But you never really know, because right now there is a man playing like an absolute stud MVP and solidifying himself to separate any conversation that he may be in as to whether or not he or Joe Burrow is the second or best quarterback in the NFL. Bills fans are going to continue arguing Josh Allen. Other people have argued Josh Allen. Whatever. I don't care. But there's no debate between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow at this point. He's playing like an MVP. And that 2008 draft class, or 18 draft class, by the way, how much different it feels this year than even a couple of years ago. Number 1 pick, Baker Mayfield. Number 3 pick, Sam Darnold. Number 7, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen at number 10, Arizona.
Yeah.
And then number 32, Lamar Jackson.
Just some great quarterbacks and Josh Rosen.
Sam Darnold looks like an MVP candidate through 3 weeks. Baker Mayfield got a playoff win last year, got a contract extension. Lamar won the MVP last year, and Josh Allen may win the MVP this year.
We all said that class. We said it even 2 years ago.
And by the way, Josh Allen didn't look good his rookie year. I mean, they went and they started building around him. Stephon Diggs helped, but he wasn't great his rookie year. You saw some flaws in his game, but, he's grown and matured and gotten a lot better. And last night, he was running down the field, and he got inside the 10-yard line, and he pump faked, or inside the 20-yard line, and he was like 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, and he pump faked, and then there were a couple of guys there, and you know what he did? He slid. And I looked at my son, I said, it's a great decision by Josh Allen. That I don't know that he makes that decision 2 years ago. In fact, I know he doesn't make that decision 2 years ago, because the goal line is from me to Dylan, and there's one guy in front of him and one guy at his 2 o'clock. I ain't sliding. The goal line's right there. This time he slid. Lived to fight another day. Guess what? They scored a touchdown on that drive. Okay? Don't be dumb. All right?
Someone called Josh Rosen up is what I'm gathering, though, because he is a free agent.
Yep, there you go.
He is a
free
free agent.
He just needs an opportunity.
He's just 27 years old.
Let's give him an opportunity. It's
shockingly younger than I thought.
It's the coaching. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 913-912-4810 Texas. I'm really glad the NFL kept both primetime games close last night by influencing the game with flags.
I texted you last night. I said, hey, do you think the refs are going to start throwing flags to keep the Jags in this? And somehow, because you said every game, right?
He said every single game.
Every single game.
What was it? Oh, here it is. Matt Kelly on Twitter. So the guy that tweeted in said, you need to watch more games than just KC. You know, this happens in all primetime games. And then Matt Kelly replied and said, man, I've never thought about it this way. Great call. And then just a picture of the Bills 47, Jags 10. Exactly. Dude.
That's great.
Just a simple, man, great call. The underdogs do get all the calls early to keep it close, and then the favorites late get the calls so that they end up winning.
Uh-huh.
Great. Nice job. That's absolutely right. Look at last night. 47-10. It's unbelievable. Tex says, Joe Burrow's like Hulk Hogan. He's never lost clean. Mm-hmm. Tex says, and I think this is a legit question. Tex says, I want to know how the Commanders were able to move the ball better with 10 on offense than the Chiefs with 11. And I think that he was talking about 10 men when they threw the touchdown to McLaurin? The Commanders didn't have 11 men on the field, and they scored the touchdown there?
That's because that's a chuck and duck situation. That's a throw and pray situation there.
Yeah. Tex says, Daniels' kneel down on the last play cost people a lot of money. Is that right?
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Did you see the Mahomes prop?
No.
Oh, no. Dude. The Patrick Mahomes prop is one of the worst beats that anybody will ever have. And I know people don't like, football beats and fantasy football. And I think people do like to hear about like some bad beats of like, hold on, that's just ridiculous.
Like
of how
losing
bad that
a
was.
rushing over, I'm guessing, on a kneel down. That's what we're.
I've always said they should take
I have
that
had
out.
that happen.
Kneel down should not count
Yep.
for betting.
I agree.
Rushing over unders.
College, don't ever bet a quarterback's rushing total in college because sacks take away from their rushing yards in college.
Yeah.
So if you've got, because that happened to me with Jalen Milroe last year. He was like 11 yards over his rushing total, and then on the last drive he took like a 12-yard sack.
Oh man!
But
and in college they run straight back.
Exactly,
they're
running
They're
around.
no 3-yard sacks.
So Patrick Mahomes over under the total in rushing yards for the game was 19.5. When the Chiefs took over after 4th down and 1, he was at 30 yards rushing. Patrick Mahomes down number 1. Kneels -5 yards because he kept going backwards.
Oh.
Patrick Mahomes down number 2. Kneels -4 yards because he kept going backwards to waste time. Down 3. Patrick Mahomes kneels -4 yards, 17 yards rushing on the day.
Well, whoever had the unders, very happy.
Whoever had the under should only get their money back. You should not. Everybody should get their money back on that. You should not be able to cash the under on Mahomes' total of rushing yards when he lost 13 yards
on
the final 3 plays on purpose to drown the clock out.
Yeah,
that's one of the worst beats.
I hate that kneel downs count.
Oh,
I
man.
really do.
Yes.
I get you can always bet the under, but it's just.
But the over was the right side. But that's how that's why
I guess
gambling
I was
is
too
so
busy
difficult.
winning, so I didn't pay attention to the bad ones.
I didn't have Mahomes' rushing total, so I wasn't paying attention until like it was all over the internet on Sunday night and Monday morning of like all of these different people posting their parlays that had Mahomes on the
Dude.
over 19.5 that it didn't hit. Tex says, I love hearing bad beats like that. See, I agree. I agree with that.
It's also like a warning, like a I'm not really understanding here what would be a good example, but just kind of a roadmap for gamblers that this can happen to you. You can take an over on a quarterback rushing total.
With
but
50 seconds.
You have to be remembered that they kneel down to end the game.
But even with kneel downs, you had a 11-yard buffer. If he just kneeled down for only 10-yard loss, you're good.
3 kneels for 10 yards. Oh yeah, this is easy.
No way that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because even before third down, it was, he had lost 9 yards. So he was still sitting at 21, and you're at 19.5. Okay, you lose 1 yard, you're still at 20.
Yeah, you're good.
Just don't run backwards more and do the whole slide thing where he almost hurts his knee by sliding. I lost my lunch or dinner at that point when he did that. Tex says, it turns out the only comparison for Mahomes and Caleb Williams is what people thought Mahomes was going to be. A guy that runs around, just throws the ball up, gunslinger who chucks the ball and hopes.
It's pretty good.
Tex says, to be fair, they do have the option to cash out before the game ends. But I think once you get to that point, the cash out goes unavailable.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Tex says, oh no. He goes, I know literally no one cares, but I lost out on 2,200 because Kelsey dropped his would-be 5th reception. Brutal.
Brother.
That's rough.
I feel for you.
That is rough, man.
That's a tough one. For you.
It's a tough beat. I don't know that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep at night if that happened.
I'd probably sleep. I think I'd still go to bed.
Yes, I would try. I don't know that I'd be thinking about the money that I just lost. It sucks. But I would go back the next day and just double down until I eventually do win the 2,200. That's the way to do it. That's just being smart. I say bet whatever, only gamble what you're willing to win is the smart way to go about it.
No, legally speaking, I don't think you can even say that as a joke. Give the sarcasm bump right now.
What are you talking about?
Dylan, the sarcasm bump.
Legally speaking, what do you mean?
Thank you.
Was somebody's going to sue me for being dumb? Sue me for what? Being awesome? Are you going to take me to fun jail? You're going to fun police come here and arrest me? Put some fun handcuffs on me? I don't know. Those might be.
I don't.
Do you own a pair of fun handcuffs? I don't know.
What is going on?
This show,
I smell toast.
This show. We'll take a time out. We'll come back. We got Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. We've got Les Norman coming up at noon. And we got Todd Lebo at 1 o'clock. More Zone next. get his thoughts on this Chiefs team that is 3-0. You know, Sterling, some people are saying smoke and mirrors. Their 3 victories have come against teams that are combined 2-7. Schedule-induced victories for the Chiefs. 2-7. Most people pointed out the first part of the schedule would be the easiest.
Well, the Bills have played world beaters, right?
They have.
Okay, yeah.
They have. The Chiefs have actually played all 3 teams that were projected to make the playoffs before the season and either finish second or win their division before the season started. Adam Teicher next. Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. Let's talk some NFL football with Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks, joining us here in the zone. Adam, welcome in, sir. How are you?
Good, Jason. How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. The Chiefs are 3-0. We are, full on talking some NFL football, so can't be much better. I do want to talk about a team that is not the Chiefs, but did play last night. The Bengals are 0-3, and they looked pretty good last week. They had opportunities to win that game, lots of opportunities. The only reason they lost is because the officials want the Chiefs to win. But they are now 0-3. What do you make of what we've seen from I know it's not, the Chiefs and the team we cover, but what do you make of what we've seen from the Bengals? That is an 0-3 team, and now they are trying to fight an uphill battle that 162 teams since 1990 that started 0-3, only 4 of them have gone on to make the playoffs, and this was a team that was one of the favorites to win their division.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't look good there, but I still think they'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. Now, are they going to figure it out to the point where they can make the playoffs and all that? I don't know, but I just feel like this is the typical early season Bengals right now, that they just have trouble for whatever reason, and I have my theories, but I don't know. But I just think that that's a team that gets out of the gate slow under this coach, and maybe this quarterback too. Maybe there's something to be said for his off-season regimen. I don't know, but at any rate, I think that they'll be okay, but can they recover from this? I don't know. They're already 3 games behind in their division, so but 2 games left against the Steelers, so who knows? Yeah,
last night we watched a couple of teams that are considered, okay, are these teams challengers to the Chiefs in the AFC? Is it Cincinnati? Are they a team that's up there? Baltimore's been talked about, certainly. Buffalo, Miami, Jacksonville, Houston, all of these different teams that have been mentioned, and a lot of them have started off slow, and then we see Buffalo that, they haven't just looked good. They've been dominating teams. They've been playing the way, Adam, that Chiefs fans have been wondering if the Chiefs will ever have a game like that. Like, they've had 2 or 3 of these games. They fell behind 17-3 of the Cardinals and then just punked them. And then back-to-back games where they're just running away from teams, with the Dolphins last Thursday night and then the Jags last night on Monday Night Football. They look, if there's a challenger to the Chiefs early on, 3 weeks in, the Bills look like the main team because they're playing great football, and Josh Allen through 3 weeks looks like an MVP.
Yeah, he does, and they do look good. And if this is who the Bills, the team they bring to the playoffs, that's going to be a tough team for anybody to beat, much including the Chiefs. But we've seen this. They're kind of the anti-Cincinnati. They start off quickly. You remember a couple of years ago they just destroyed the Rams in the season opening game. The Rams were coming off the Super Bowl championship. They just destroyed them out in L.A. and. So we'll see with them how much they can sustain this. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. Championships can't be won in September. They can be lost in September, which may be what we're seeing with Cincinnati now. But they can't be won in September. So there's no, as long as you're winning games, it doesn't really matter how you're doing it. 3-0 is 3-0 right now, but hey, they did look good for sure.
Yeah, and that was the year that. That Von Miller had the great game. Josh Allen threw the touchdown late. The Chiefs were down by 4, I think, and then Mahomes threw the interception. And then the Bills kind of went in the tank after that. They really struggled. But you're right. It does feel like these two teams, Bills and Bengals, start off on completely different paths through the season. The Bengals are always fighting an uphill battle to get back into the race or make the playoffs or get hot, while the Bills are trying to continue the momentum they built early in the season and try to catch that later on in the year of what that magic they had, in the first, in September and October. It is sort of interesting how the culture, personality, sort of the personality of some organizations and their coaches show up, and there's some sort of a theme. Like Andy Reid's always good in September. They always start off fast, and we've seen the Bills and Bengals. It's fascinating that personality, tends to shine through more and more. And that can't be coincidental. That's got to be something with the coaching, the beginning, training camp, off-season programs along those lines.
I'm convinced that it is. I mean, I've seen how the Chiefs work year after year after year, and then they always get off to these great starts, and even last year when they lost the opener by 1 point, they went on to win the next 6 games. So there is something to that, and training camp is important, and it maybe is as important as it's ever been, and so I think the preseason has a value. I don't know that it's as important as it was a long time ago, but it still has a value. And I think sitting guys out, hey, every team's different, and there's different guys need different things, and every team is different. But in general, I think you should play your guys some at least during the preseason.
Should the Chiefs' offense hasn't started out great. It looked awesome early against the Ravens. It was like, wow, this offense is going to be so much fun. Should Andy play guys longer? Should Patrick Mahomes get more series in the preseason with his starters, with his offensive linemen, even though, a good majority of those guys he's been playing with for a while? Is that something that Andy Reid should address, and maybe some other guys playing more? I know that some injuries hampered and there was more of an inability to do that by circumstance, but is that something maybe that the Chiefs can do if they're having some of these offensive struggles early in the season, even though they're winning games?
Yeah, there is a balance there, obvious. Yeah. You don't want to play the guys too much. And, I do like, again, the Chiefs just work so well. They get so much good work done on the practice field during training camp that I don't know that in their case it's as necessary maybe as it would be for other teams. You look, to me, it's the other side of the ball that came out for the Chiefs slowly this year. Yeah. And that was mainly because guys like, look at the way Nick Bolton played in Atlanta. Now, look at the 2 previous games, the way he played. Is it any coincidence that he needed a couple games after not getting any in the preseason, any snaps in the preseason, and a limited training camp because of his elbow injury? No, it's not. To me, it was going to be a little bit slow with the defense. Probably, we probably should have seen that coming. That this wasn't going to be what the Chiefs hoped right out of the gate, because they had so many guys who missed some time. So it was that side of the ball, I think, that was more affected by anything this year for the Chiefs.
Yeah, they've certainly looked pretty damn good at times, and I want to get into the rushing defense here in a little bit in our conversation. But just in general, let's get into the Chiefs and what we've seen through these 3 games. But let's look at the Atlanta game. They win 22-17. Thank you, Harrison Butker, because I had the Chiefs winning 23-17. So, what are the odds that I missed the score because Butker misses an extra point? Whatever. Your reaction to the Chiefs winning against the Falcons, taking care of business, they're 3-0, but what you saw in that game, how they got it done?
Yeah, well, it was certainly their defense after that first Atlanta drive, the opening drive. After that, I feel like, the Chiefs did a lot of good things, particularly in the second half. They gave up a few yards on those last 2 drives that Atlanta had, but they got it done in the end. And you could say, well, hey, they should have called pass interference on Brian Cook. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they probably should have. But in the end, the Chiefs still get it done. The Falcons should have kicked field goals there too. I really believe that was the way to go for them on that first of the two drives. Kick the field goal. Go down by 2 points there, and I feel like they really that's where they blew the game. They could have said, well, hey, we didn't know we were going to make the Chiefs go 3 and out, but they did, and really would have helped them, and they would have won the game if they kicked some field goals. So they got a little help from their opponents there too, but still, when it came time to make some plays, the Chiefs made them, and I'm wondering if their defense is now starting to turn a corner a little bit. That maybe this is turning into the defense that we remember from last year.
So let's talk about some of those things on offense. And they get to the 22 points. They score 19 against the Bengals. 7 of those coming on defense, but I'm pretty confident they would have got some points out of that drive if Shamari Connor does not score a touchdown. But still, they scored 19 offensive points. They scored 27 against the Ravens. I was rewatching the All-22 last night, and one of the things that I really wanted to look at, Adam, was the usage of Xavier Worthy because it feels very gimmicky and gadgety early on through these 3 games. And there was one play that sort of stood out, and I'll give a shout-out to Matt Lane pointing this out on Twitter. It was the Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown, the underneath, and he said, watch the top of the screen with Xavier Worthy and watch him run the route, and you wonder why he doesn't do this more often. And he just had a route where he runs down the field to about the 5-yard line, fakes inside as if he's going to run a post, puts his foot in the ground after accelerating and then going back out to the sideline, and he wins the rep. And it was like, wow, that's a legit wide receiver route. That was wide open for Juju Smith-Schuster, so I'm glad that Mahomes threw the ball there. But if Juju wasn't open, and if Xavier Worthy were, like, let's say, the number 1 target or something, he was there. And if Mahomes throws it to the sideline, it's a touchdown. And so I was watching the All-22 last night, and 2 things really stood out, Adam. One thing that really, really stood out is the Chiefs are not exaggerating as to how deep the defenses are playing this team. I mean, just every play, it felt like no matter where the Chiefs snapped the ball, there were 2 guys standing in the end zone. Like, they could have been at their own 30, and it felt like they were 2 guys so deep. I don't know that I watched a play where the Chiefs had somebody deeper or further down the field than the deepest defender. I don't know that there was one play like that watching it. That really stood out to me. And then also just the usage of Xavier Worthy. The All-22 sort of backed up what I felt like we've been seeing so far in the first 3 weeks. It's been he's running straight down the field, or we're putting him in motion, or we're handing the ball off to him, or he's going to be a decoy over here because he's not really running as fast as he can. You can tell that if it's like a decoy. I think that's one thing about Xavier Worthy should probably work on is I could tell by watching the All-22 when the ball wasn't coming his way because he wasn't running like Xavier Worthy down the field, or maybe that's just him pacing himself to okay, now I'm going to take off. That might be what the Chiefs are teaching, so I don't want to go that route yet with Xavier Worthy. But those 2 things really stood out when I started just watching Xavier Worthy, but then it was so evident, Adam, and you're at these games and you see the All-22 every play. But, man, the depth that teams are taking on passing plays against this team is incredible.
Yeah, they are, and so obviously the Chiefs have their attention there, and the Chiefs just have to make it work more consistently, with the underneath stuff. And I think for the most part they did that okay against Atlanta. That first drive was a great drive. I thought that was everything you want a drive to be when teams are defending you that way, except the last play. And that's that's where Mahomes can't throw that ball. I felt that was a little forced. It was late. The play was breaking down. Sometimes you just got to give the other team their due and say, okay, you won that down. So, I think the Chiefs can make this work. But just listening to Mahomes after the game, he just sounded really frustrated already. And they're 3-0, but he sounded like a guy that was quarterbacked a team that had just lost, and was 0-3 maybe. I mean, he just was really frustrated about how things are going, and he seemed, already resigned to the Chargers game, what they're going to see this week. He said, like, yeah, we're going to see this again in L.A., so we've just got to be better at it, and I've got to be better at it. So I think there's already that frustration level setting in, but, I still think there's things the Chiefs can do to be effective. I mean, it's hard to be consistently good doing what they're doing, playing the way they're having to play, but I think they have the pieces and the coaching to do it. So I still think they can be a pretty potent team doing it this way.
I saw a difference in Patrick Mahomes from the first half to the second half, and maybe that was concerted, maybe that was in his mind. After the game, he talked about him saying, how he has to improve and his base. But the first half, he looked, jittery. He looked like a guy that was just trying to get rid of the ball, that there was sort of a lack of trust with the offensive line. One of the early throws to Juju Smith-Schuster, he was sort of half running forward and then, throws it to Juju off target. That throw to Noah Gray, he was about to get hit. And that was a corner route to Noah Gray that he threw more toward the middle of the field. Like that was Noah. Kelsey was running to the sideline, bringing that deeper player to him. Noah Gray running a corner route. And I noted this on Twitter, Adam, that when Mahomes threw the ball, Travis Kelsey was looking at Mahomes, and Travis Kelsey knew that back defender was coming towards him, that both defenders were coming towards him, the underneath and that back defender. And when he threw the ball, Travis Kelsey threw his hand in the air with the number 1, as if we just scored a touchdown. And then turned around, and then you saw the shock on his face, like, hold on, what just took place? Because it was open towards the corner of the end zone where it looked like Noah Gray was running to, but Mahomes threw it in the wrong spot. But in the second half, Adam, a couple of those throws, the dime he threw across the field to Travis Kelsey when he just got his feet set, trusted protection, and stepped into the throw. The dime to Rashee Rice, almost the same exact route. Trusted protection, base was there, platform was there, stepped into the throw, fired it across the field. He was 9 of 12 for 90 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions in the second half. Maybe that's the start of getting him. And one of those interceptions or one of those incompletions was the last throw that was a miscommunication between Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, whoever. He looked like he was a little more comfortable in the second half of throwing the ball. Certainly felt a little more accurate and not just relying on, my arm's I can throw off platform, I can throw fading away, I can throw off my back foot, things that he was doing in the first drive.
Yeah. I think he was better in the second half, no doubt. He looked a lot sharper and a lot more sure about the things he wanted to do. So, maybe that's a start. Maybe that's, how the Chiefs get digging out of this. I don't want to call it a hole, but, becoming the team maybe they want to become a little more. But, it's going to be interesting to see this week in L.A., how the Chargers defend them and, what the Chiefs have planned as well.
Do you think the big plays will come back in this offense? I do think they're trying. I think they're calling plays for it. But, it's been one of the things that you and I talked a lot in training camp, Adam, that – boy, they are really going out of their way to throw the ball deep, to make a concerted effort to get that back into this offense. And it really feels like teams are going out of their way to say, I don't care. You can try it all you want. We're not letting you do that. Do you think that will return at some point this year? Or defenses keep saying, we're going to do exactly what the first 3 teams did as well, and we're going to make them drive 12, 13, 14 plays to get in the end zone?
Yeah, well, they did a nice job, the Chiefs did, against Baltimore, certainly. I think there were 6 pass plays at 20 or more yards, and then 3 of 30 or more yards. So, they did a nice job there. And even against Cincinnati, they got the touchdown to Rashee Rice. So, they did a nice job there. Now, last week they just had the one play that was more than, 17 yards. And that was, other than that, there was the longest play was 17 yards. So, last week was an extreme, and I would wonder, how are teams going to attack them? I think the Chiefs, I really thought after those first 2 drives the other night that they had, the first one ended badly for the Chiefs, obviously, the interception, but I thought up to that point it was exactly what they needed to do to combat what the Falcons are doing, and the second drive was the same way. So, I feel like they have that in them to go ahead and play that way if they need to. And I feel like if they can have a lot of drives like those first two the other night, that teams are going to have to adjust and then play them maybe a little more honestly.
Yeah, the longest plays for the Chiefs, it is sort of interesting. Two of their three, or the two longest plays, because they had two that were tied at 17 yards. So number one was Rashee Rice, the throw that we're talking about that was sort of the same throw as Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid said it was the same route that Kelce and Rice ran on those sort of overs where Mahomes sat in the pocket, trusted the protection, stepped into the throw, threw a dart and a bullseye. 27 yards to Rice and 17 yards to Kelce. Like the same route, same play. One of those old faithfuls for the Chiefs that we see them run those three-level, plays and have guys get open and get a one-on-one matchup, and Mahomes is able to exploit that. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. Kingsley and Wanya Morris. Wanya Morris started the game. I thought Kingsley was going to start, but Wanya Morris started. What do you make of this moving forward? If you're predicting now, is Wanya Morris for the foreseeable future? Is he now the starting left tackle for this Chiefs team until, otherwise noted by Andy?
Yeah, I don't see any reason to go back at this point. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea to be shuttling guys in and out of the lineup. I don't think that is a long-term solution. So pick a guy, and until it gets to a point where it got against Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, stick with him, and I think that's going to be the best thing for the Chiefs long-term. So, yeah, I do see Morris starting for him in L.A. and beyond as long as he takes care of business.
You've covered this team and for a long time, but you covered this team through the offseason, through training camp. Chris Collinsworth had the note on the broadcast. I know you were there, but the note on the broadcast from Chris Collinsworth was that, Wanya Morris is now starting, which was kind of the plan all along until he got injured, and then they went with Kingsley. So now they're putting Wanya Morris at left tackle in week 3, which is kind of what they were going to do anyway. I did not get that read from the Chiefs in training camp at all, that this was Wanya's job. What do you make of that Chris Collinsworth? Because I don't think maybe he was just throwing that out there to try to save face. They have those production meetings with the Chiefs, so maybe there was there. But, I mean, just like, what do you make of that sort of commentary from Chris Collinsworth that his either assessment or what he was told and not going to report it as this is, from them telling me that this was Wanya's job and it was the knee injury that cost him that?
Yeah, somebody else pointed that comment out to me. I did not see the broadcast, but somebody else pointed that out to me. And, I don't know what he's talking about there. I'm guessing Andy Reid or somebody made some kind of comment about, hey, we had a competition. And I don't know what was said, but maybe he misconstrued something, or maybe he was told what he said. Maybe that's exactly what he was told. But it was clear, even going back to OTAs, that this was kind of the Chiefs' intent. Kingsley Suamataia played one position and one position only, and that was left tackle throughout the whole OTAs and training camp and the preseason. Wanya Morris moved around a little bit. I mean, he was playing some guard and some right tackle, and for most of camp, Suamataia was the number one left tackle. So, no, that was never the plan, that Wanya Morris was going to be the starting left tackle. So, if anything, certainly it looked like the plan was for Suamataia to be the left tackle. So, I have no idea where that came from.
Yeah, I'm with you. It seemed out of nowhere of Chris Collins. Maybe that was them trying to save face or try to save Kingsley Suamataia and his ego of like, well, no, he didn't lose his job. This is just sort of the plan, and now Wanya's healthy. But I'm with you on the staying with Morris moving forward. If they make, I think they're waiting that if they make another move, that's going to be the final one that they make. So if Kingsley Suamataia is put back into the starting lineup, there's no pulling him for poor play in a game. Like, he's our left tackle moving forward. If we do that, I don't think they want to get into a revolving door and musical chairs at left tackle either. So if they make another move, I think that move is for the season. And heck, the move might be Wanya Morris is their starting left tackle moving forward this year, but. I thought it would have been an easier task against Atlanta than Cincinnati. And Wanya was fine, but I also think there were some plays where he'd like to have back, just like Kingsley would like to have a number of plays back. So we'll see. Last one for you, Adam, in this segment, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about the defense, red zone, and look ahead to this Chargers shocking mash unit for the Chargers. They are an injured team. That's never happened before with the Chargers. But I had mentioned that last sort of miscommunication on 3rd down and 2 with Mahomes and Rice and Xavier Worthy. Andy Reid said that it was not Worthy. It was his compadre that was over there in the area, which the only compadre in the area was Rashee Rice that ran the wrong route. It's weird because if Andy Reid is trying to protect Xavier Worthy, he'd be throwing Rashee Rice under the bus. You know what I mean? Like, it's if somebody's wrong there, somebody's getting thrown under the bus. But what do you make of the comments that he was like, no, it was not Xavier Worthy. It was Rashee Rice. He was the guy. It was his fault.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, that's exactly what he did here. Other than just protecting a rookie at the expense of a veteran, I don't know. I don't know what that was all about. I really don't. Andy Reid doesn't like to be publicly critical of any player, and so, once he says by name that Xavier Worthy was the guilty player, then he's been publicly critical of a guy. But if he just says, hey, it's one of his teammates did something wrong,
that's a good point.
Then you can look at the video and say, well, it was probably Rice, but he didn't name him by name. I'm just trying to get you into the mind of Andy Reid a little bit.
Absolutely.
In that, of any coach I've ever covered, he will not go there with anybody. He will not be publicly critical of anyone. So that's how he operates, and that's one of the reasons guys love playing for him, by the way, is that he just will not throw them under the bus publicly, and even privately he takes a patient tone with guys. Hey, you messed this up and we need you to be better, but he does it in a patient tone and not you screw this up one more time and you're done kind of way.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear that, because I tend to take him at face value that, okay, maybe it wasn't Xavier Worthy. All right, because if it was Xavier Worthy, he could say, a little miscommunication there. It's one of those. We'll get it cleaned up, and then it could be, okay, it was a miscommunication that Mahomes thought that he was keeping running, but he was supposed to stay there, and it wasn't Xavier Worthy's fault or whatever. But it was like, no, his compadre ran the wrong route. But what's interesting is that the broadcast then showed on the sideline it was Mahomes and I believe Nagy and Xavier Worthy looking at the tablet going over that route. So, like, was it Rashee Rice or they were just saying, hey, you ran the right route. Why did you stop? There's nobody here. Keep going. I have no idea. But there was at least one conversation on the sideline with one of those guys, and that was Mahomes, a coach, and Xavier Worthy going through that. So I don't know. We'll find out what it ultimately what it means. But also there were a couple. If it was a miscommunication of a check that not everybody got, that happened twice, because it was that 3rd down run to Samaje Perine when Mahomes checked into a run, and you had Tooney, Creed, Trey, and Jawan Taylor pass block, and Wanya Morris run block, and Samaje Perine lose a couple of yards because he got hit in the backfield because 4 guys were pass blocking. That clearly did not get some sort of a check there. That would have been twice in the same game that not everybody was on the same page. So I'm assuming maybe those things happen more often than we know. It just maybe isn't as evident on 2 different 3rd and shorts that result in punts for the Chiefs.
And yeah, you're right. And not that this excuses it anyway, but it got kind of loud in that building Sunday night too. So not that excuses it. And the Chiefs are usually so efficient with those things on the road. But, that could have been a factor as well.
Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Another segment with Adam. We continue more Zone right after this. Adam Teicher, ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. All right, Adam, wanted to get your thoughts on this defense. You had mentioned it earlier that, it may be a couple of weeks, and now we're seeing this defense. I talked about it in the offseason that, the way this team was constructed, and I was concerned about the pass rush without blitzing. I do love that Steve Spagnuolo was like, you know what, bleep this. We're going after Kirk Cousins. We're blitzing that guy. We didn't blitz a lot last week, but you know what? We're one of Santa's reindeer this week. We're blitzing.
Someone tweeted, I love that Spags is the 10-year-old playing Madden, just hammering the blitz all button right now.
So great, man. And it, you know what? And Adam, it left Drake London one-on-one for him to catch some jump balls, and hey, that happens. But one of the things that I talked about earlier this year before the season started was, I felt like this team was going to be legit against the rush, that this team was built to have a good rush defense. Derrick Henry went off yesterday or on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys that have a pretty porous defense. He also had 80, 90 yards rushing last week and a touchdown. Had a couple of touchdowns and like 130 yards rushing against the Cowboys. But against the Chiefs, 13 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown. It was a 5-yard carry. Zach Moss, 12 carries, 34 yards, no touchdowns. And Bijan Robinson, 16 carries, 31 yards, and the 1-yard touchdown that Mooney got down to the 1-yard line. That's a total, Adam, of 41 carries and 111 yards to the three main running backs that they have faced, 2.7 yards per attempt. And Adam, we're not talking about teams that the Chiefs are blowing out, and so they're just not giving it to their main guy. What are you seeing from this, and why do you think, even with a couple of weeks to sort of get acclimated, that this Chiefs run defense has been as stout as it's been?
Yeah, that's I think a big reason why the Chiefs are 3-0 right now. I don't think it's as important as it once was to be a great run defending team, but I think you have to be able to do it. You can't be giving up 5 yards a carry and expect to be the defensive team you want to be. So I do think this is really a big part of where the Chiefs are. And as far as why, I think they're just a well-coached team. I think this is a team that knows what they want to do, and the run fits are all working. And I just feel like this is a team. Just listening to Nick Bolton talk a little bit after the game, he knew what was coming.
Yeah.
He had no doubt the play they were going to run and how he was going to do that. And I don't know that everybody's as into this or in tune with what's going on as Nick Bolton is among the Chiefs defensively, but I think a lot of guys are. Yeah. And I don't think that play didn't looked like it caught nobody by surprise on the defensive side. So, I think there's just a lot there, that they're well coached and they are paying attention to what's going on there.
Yeah, it's interesting that he talked about that, because watching that Bijan Robinson 1-yard touchdown from the goal line, and he's absolutely right. They were shaded to the defense's left, so the Atlanta's right, where they were overloaded, and they went back the other way, and Nick Bolton got to the hole that was created by the offensive line for Atlanta, but Bijan Robinson had already turned the corner, so he was the one that created more of the force with Nick Bolton, and he ends up getting in the end zone. Same setup, same play, and Nick Bolton shades to the weak side for Atlanta. You would think, no, they're going the other way, but he adjusts, and he gets there. But also shout out, Adam, to Mike Pennell, who did a great job in winning his individual matchup and pushing the center back a few yards. And Leo Chanel was just pushing the sled. He just came off the line and pushed that left tackle 4 yards into the backfield and made Bijan Robinson sort of dodge him to where he couldn't get up momentum. Nick Bolton came in and cleaned it up, got the guys in the right spot, but Pennell and Leo Chanel just dominated their opponents, and it's a winning play. It's a championship winning play that they made.
Yeah, and that goes to the other aspect of this. You ask why they've been so good. Mm-hmm. You got some guys winning. You got some guys beating their blocks and making tackles. The tackling, I think, has been pretty good. So, I think there's a lot to like there if you're the Chiefs.
Leo Chanel usage, when they drafted him, I didn't know what they would do with him because he seemed like just a straight line runner. He plays linebacker, but he's got crazy athleticism, but side to side, he just looks awkward. When he's running downhill, like he's so strong and athletic from that standpoint, and just, is just he just seems like he's country strong. Just one of those guys that just is going to overpower you. The usage for Leo Chanel now, they've figured out. I'll say this: it may have taken him a little bit, and maybe Leo Chanel developing too, but I think they have found his niche, his sweet spot. And now he can excel because the Chiefs coaches are putting him in a position to use his strengths. And no pun intended, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, they're getting way more out of him than I anticipated when they drafted him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any question about that. As a matter of fact, we had this thing, I think it was last week, where we all at ESPN had to answer, okay, who's the unsung hero for your team? Who's the guy who's kind of underappreciated, overlooked? No one really talks about him, but is getting a lot done. And I picked Leo Chanel as the Chiefs guy. You know, he's this was after the Cincinnati game. Remember, he'd gone in and played a couple plays on offense, and he was helping them out there in the goal line and the short yardage situations. And he's doing a lot for them right now. You know, he's lining up at a number of different places, and so I think he's that guy for the Chiefs. He's kind of their, if you're going to pick an MVP among players who just aren't talked about, who are overlooked, I think that's the guy.
One more on the defense, and I want to get your thoughts on a feel for the Chargers. Have the Chiefs made a decision as to who their they've made a decision as to who their second cornerback is? That's Jalen Watson. He's played over 90% of the snaps in the first 3 weeks. But clearly Joshua Williams is going the other direction, and Najee Johnson is stepping up. Just the numbers. Week 1, Joshua Williams played 40% of the snaps and 0% on special teams. In Week 1, Najee Johnson played 0% of the snaps and played special team snaps. Week 3, Joshua Williams, 0% on defense. Najee Johnson, 43%. So the third cornerback playing roughly the same percentage. It's just Najee Johnson didn't play a snap in Week 1. It was all Josh Williams. And now Josh Williams didn't play a snap in Week 3. It's all Najee Johnson. Has this now been to where the Chiefs have found their top 3 cornerbacks that they're going to go with moving forward?
It certainly looks like it. And hey, you never put it past Spagnuolo to make a matchup decision and say, hey, we need a little different kind of guy against this particular opponent, so we're going back to Josh Williams. So I don't know that he's necessarily buried on the bench forever, but that's the way it looked the other night, no doubt. I mean, it was Najee Johnson show in terms of that when they needed to go to 3 corners. No doubt it was him.
Yep, it was Josh Williams, 40% against the Ravens, 9% against the Bengals, 0% against the Falcons. Najee Johnson, 0% against the Ravens, 34% against the Bengals, and 43% against the Falcons percentage playing time that he is in there. Also should point out Shamari Connor's gone from 50% up to 82% in those same 3 weeks of being on the field. So he's been a guy that they are certainly getting a lot of out of right now. All right, do you have a feel for this Chargers game that it looks like Joe Alt is going to, quote, miss some time? That would be this week. We'll get updates on Justin Herbert. We'll get updates on Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa. It seems every year, Adam, we talk about the Chargers and who's on the injury list and who may or may miss games. But do you have a feel for this game in that they started off 2-0? I thought they were playing a pretty darn good game over the weekend, and they were going to be 3-0, but they're not. So do you have a feel for this game and maybe a score in mind if you have one? Chiefs favored by 8.5 right now.
Yeah, the Steelers have a way of wearing you down, man. I mean, I know they had some injuries, and that certainly played a part in it for the Chargers. But, boy, the Steelers are tough to deal with for 60 minutes. I'll tell you that on both sides of the ball. But as far as the Chargers, I can't imagine they're going to play Justin Herbert. That smacks of real. I don't know how bad the injury is and what that looks like. I'm just saying. He already had him. He was already questionable for this game, and you played him, and he got knocked out. It smacks of desperation at this point that you would play him in a game, even one of this magnitude, if you're the Chargers. I can't imagine he would be ready to go and that he could play the way we know Justin Herbert to play. But, maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's just what it seems like from this part of things. And as far as, Joe Alt and Slater and Bosa, I mean, the more guys, the more they're better players that are out, the easier it gets for the Chiefs. I thought this was going to be a competitive game. if all those guys played, and if they don't, obviously you start stacking them up, and how much does that play into the Chiefs' advantage? So it's hard to know what the Chargers are going to have without knowing how many of those guys are going to be out there, and whether they're going to play well if they are. But, I don't see a big number from the Chiefs either way, maybe getting into the low 20s again. I'll take the Chiefs 23-13 without knowing where the Chargers are. If Herbert doesn't play, maybe the Chiefs can hold them under that. But right now I'll go with somewhere in the neighborhood of 23-13, something like in that neighborhood.
23-13. I think the 8.5 points is a line indicative of Vegas not thinking Herbert's going to play this weekend.
Yeah.
Should also point out that with the injuries, Derwin James was also suspended for one game.
I forgot completely about him.
For repeated unnecessary roughness calls. He has appealed. I'm not sure about how long the appeals process takes, but while he's appealing, he can play. But if that appeal process is upheld, then he will miss Week 4's matchup against the Chiefs. So we'll see.
My sense is that appeal process will go pretty quickly, and we'll have some word later on this week. But, I forgot all about him, and that's another guy that you just throw another log on the fire there.
Yeah, if Derwin James and Joey Bosa are both out and Justin Herbert's not playing, and Joe Alt's not in there, well, we'll see how much the Chargers can stay in the game. Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. Adam, you're the man as always. Appreciate it, brother. We'll be enjoying this week, your coverage, conversations with the morning show, and certainly with Seren. And enjoy the game, and we'll talk next week.
All right, good stuff, Jason. Talk to you then.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher, presented by Twin Peaks. He's got 23-13. So Derwin James said, I don't want to keep ask about the unnecessary roughness call that he was called for in that Steelers game. Says, I don't want to keep the drive going. I'm trying to get the guy on the ground. I don't feel like I hit him in the head or neck, but we'll look at it. And he's been suspended for what they said was a repeat violation of playing the rules intended to keep the players safe. I'm looking at the play right now. Like it's Freiermuth coming over the middle.
Yeah.
And Derwin James is coming up to tackle him, and Freiermuth turns upfield. And it does look like Derwin James then sort of launches his head towards the head of Freiermuth. It doesn't look like he's – we talk about sometimes the BS targeting penalty in college. That looked more like that would be a targeting penalty in college. So, his arms were by his side, and he just sort of launched his head at him.
Torpedo. And it looks like a torpedo. I think it's tough to disagree with.
Right.
I am bummed to an extent, though, because I like Derwin James.
It's a fun matchup with he and Kelsey. They talk, and they go at it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's enjoyable. They've had some WWE-style takedowns in the past, right, when Derwin James did that, but Travis gets the last laugh. Mm-hmm. I like when those two go at it. And it's the Chargers chargering, whether it's Derwin James being out, but it looks like they're going to be missing a lot of their best players. Herbert, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt.
Joe Alt's definitely out this week because they said he's going to miss, quote, some time. So he is absolutely out. Bosa, we'll see.
This is what the Chargers are.
Dude, it's amazing.
Must be buried on some Indian burial ground.
It's a new regime, too.
I was going to say that. It's a new regime, and it's the same problems. And they're making the same issues with, like Teicher said, he shouldn't play. But Adam Schefter is saying he wants to and is likely to at least give it a go. And
did they say after the game yesterday that they thought Herbert's ankle was maybe 30%?
Yeah.
And they played him.
Yeah.
And then he left.
Because he looked good at warm-ups, basically.
Yeah, re-aggravated it and left the game again.
Yeah.
Like, they were in that game. Like, he left the game while there was still a game. They weren't getting blown out.
It was 10-10.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't remember what the score was when he left, but it wasn't like it was Jacksonville pulls Trevor Lawrence for Mac Jones because the game's out of hand.
Yeah.
It was a tie game. They're 2-0. They're on the road against the Steelers, and he re-aggravates that ankle. Like, looking back, obviously, if you'd have said, hey, you're going to lose to the Steelers, well, then Justin Herbert, you ain't playing.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to lose anyway. You're not playing. But in the heat of the moment, hey, we can go get this win against the Steelers, be 3-0, facing off against an undefeated Kansas City Chiefs next week for the division, lead at that point. Let's go get this win, and we'll protect Herbert. We'll hand it off to J.K. We'll hand it off to Gus. Hit some quick slants to Q. We'll do some things to protect him.
Let's not put him out there with T.J. Watt.
Yeah, right.
And a rookie right tackle who's also
And
going
who left the game,
who's getting
not
banged up.
not
Yeah.
leave him out there with backup with backup tackles.
Yep.
That both our tackles have left the game. The two highest graded in the first couple of weeks of
Yeah.
pass protection, and they're both gone.
I
and
mean, I
Herbert's
get it
there.
because as a Chiefs fan, if Mahomes had the option, we'd be lauding him for playing.
Yeah.
So I get the.
I do wonder how many weeks he might have missed if it wasn't the playoffs after that Jacksonville high ankle.
It's a
sprain.
good call.
Would he have played the next week if it wasn't the Bengals in the AFC Championship game?
Yeah,
if
it's a
he'd
good
have
call.
missed a week or two, even though Mahomes was like, "No, I want to play." It'd
Yeah,
be like,
week 3.
week
He would've.
3.
They would have held him out. Just
I
from,
absolutely believe
from
they would have held him
history
out.
of this training
I
staff.
100% believe they would have held Mahomes out and not let him. They may have let him go back in and finish that game like he wanted to against Jacksonville. If that was week 2, they may have done that because Herbert also finished that game in week 2 after leaving with the ankle injury.
There's another guy playing with not a quarterback, but another guy high profile playing with high ankle this weekend and messed it up. I'll have to look it up, but it was like a wide receiver or running back for some
Did
team.
Addison play this week? I think Addison, because he had the horse collar ankle. Joe Mixon had the horse
Hang on one
collar
second.
ankle. Mixon
Yeah.
didn't play.
Mixon
did he?
did not play.
No, he did not. I was just thinking
Cam
of the
Akers
guys.
played instead.
I was just thinking of the guys that had the horse collar ankle injuries that neither of their horse collars were called. Addison got a horse collar tackle, messed up his ankle. Joe Mixon was absolutely a horse collar tackle, messed up his ankle.
Horse collar into a hip drop. I mean, it was.
I didn't mean horse collar. Sorry, I meant hip drop.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't mean horse collar. Hip drop. Addison was a hip drop tackle. Thank you. Was an absolute hip drop tackle that wasn't called and messed up his ankle. Mixon was a hip drop tackle that wasn't called and messed up his ankle. Thank you. I didn't mean horse collar. But yeah, the hip drop that hasn't been called yet. That those were pretty. They got fined. The defenders got fined for the hip drop tackle. It just wasn't called at the time.
And that was my understanding was you're going to see more fines than it being called because it's difficult live speed to really get a good feel. And I'm actually glad they're doing it this way than the other way. I mean,
I don't disagree because you've got to pass 3 barriers for it to be a hip drop tackle.
like McDuffie had 2, but wouldn't have had the final one because
he never even went to the ground.
Well, that's why
he
it wouldn't
didn't
have been the
drop
final.
his hip.
Yeah, it was.
Hip drop. You got to drop your hip.
Well, no, that's why it's so difficult because, again, for a referee to add that into the equation, live speed is difficult. I like them going back after and fining rather than on the field.
I don't know how long the appeals process will take, but I don't think there's any chance Derwin James wins the appeal. I think you get the 1-game suspension because, as they said, the video of the play, this is the letter they sent to the Chargers and Derwin James announcing or letting him know he's been suspended for week 4. The video of the play shows that you lowered your head and made forcible contact to Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth. You had an unobstructed path to your opponent, and the illegal contact could have been avoided. Your continued disregard for NFL playing rules will not be tolerated. Substantial penalties are warranted when players violate the rules intended to protect player safety on a repeated basis, particularly when the violations carry with them a significant risk of injury to an opposing player. You have been suspended for week 4 of the NFL season. He has appealed, but he's going to lose that appeal. Yeah. It's just a matter of, does that appeal take place next week and he plays this weekend? Or is that appeal quickly going, oh, you appealed? Cool. Yeah, denied.
Well, and
see you week 5.
If Herbert's out, Rashawn Slater's out, Joe Alt's out, Bosa might be out, you might as well just say, you know what?
Well, honestly, if you're the
White
Chargers,
flag.
No, honestly,
Take
if you're the Chargers, if Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Alt, and Slater are out, why would you play Justin Herbert?
I can't wait for it to be a 1-score game.
And then they put Herbert in. More so next. Norm with Les coming up here in just a little bit. Breaking the norm with some lunch, too, having some mod pizza. Actually, should be the norm. We've enjoyed some mod pizza, a couple of different spots. In Raymore, we were over in, was it Lenexa, the first spot we were at? And we will be next Friday, so put this in your calendar, folks. We'll be in my old stomping ground over in Lee Summit, Mod Pizza Lee Summit location. So if you're listening and you're a Lee Summit fella or lady, come by and say hi. Represent, all right? For the Lee Summitans out there. Sure. Mod Pizza, loving it. Les Norman, he's in studio. Is he typically in studio? Not in September. Why? Mod Pizza's here. Breaking the norm, as we talked with him on Tuesdays, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook. Welcome into the show, brother. We got some mod pizza here for you.
And a pumpkin spice ding dong.
Nope, it's a no-name cake. The pumpkin spice ding dong is Sterling
Oh, okay.
in
My
October.
bad.
Sterling in October is a pumpkin spice
I do
ding dong.
use a pumpkin spice lather, to really smell good.
All right.
Do you, that,
You,
that-
you
My
do you.
fiance would dig it because it's like a latte, like a PSL.
it's a PSL soap.
They
That's-
should make that. I feel
that's
So,
how-
like
that's
so
how
you're
you-
saying that your fiance equates you with a flavor or a scent?
that means I'm tasty, baby.
All right. Jason, please hurry up and
Dylan,
bring this back to something
thank you.
different.
I had already marked
Yeah.
earlier. So.
have you had this yet, Sterling?
No, am I supposed to eat this now?
Do not eat that salad.
Well,
You
I
put
gotta-
no, don't take that salad bite. All right, never mind. Then do it. Just ignore me. Then that's fine. It's what am I at home? What are you, my kids? Do not.
Then
take-
you should be
do
used
not
to it.
take. No, you can't eat that while you have something else in your mouth. Cleanser.
Did he
Palate.
almost, did he
Have
almost
some
just double dip the chip?
Yeah, have some sherbet. Have some sherbet. Cleanse the mouth.
Water.
That's fine. Now that's his there. Oh no, don't you leave that there either. Did it make it in the water?
We're throwing food around here.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Is that amazing?
Is it good? All right.
It's one of the-
I'm going to get a fork over here somewhere. and
It's
I'm
one
gonna
of the best
get a piece.
desserts that I've had.
Wow.
It's the pumpkin spice no name cake at Mod Pizza. It's seasonal.
I'll give it a name.
It's seasonal.
Bleeping delicious.
Yeah, I've told him this should not be seasonal because it's not like one of those where it's seasonal, so let's go and we're gonna get it a lot just because it's seasonal. I get it every time I went, no matter what the season was. It is unbelievable. But they have the no name cakes that are there at Mod Pizza, but this pumpkin spice no name cake is unfreaking real. I grabbed mine. I'm taking home and giving to the wife
Good man,
because
Jason.
I don't smell like pumpkin spice, but that's my way to her heart is
Not all of us can
apparently
be
through
lucky.
her
you know.
pumpkin spice no name cakes.
What did
and
what
the
did,
closet.
What did Will Ferrell and Elf say that Santa smelled like? Was it beef and cheese or
Beef
something?
and cheese,
Beef
yes.
and cheese. I think that's more what I smell like.
It's a great, great smell. Les, I think you and I have something in common in questions we have been asked. I don't even think. I know for a fact there is one question over the last month that I have been asked more than any other question, and it ain't close. It's probably 50% of the questions I've been asked over the last month. 50% is one question. And that answer has changed recently.
Yep.
Is this the same for you? And
Same.
if it is, what's the question?
The only difference is that in the last 7 days, via text messages, social media, phone calls, and in-person conversations, it's been about it's 100%.
What's the
It's
question?
always the first question. The Royals gonna make it to the playoffs, dude?
Yep. Last month, I've been asked that question more than anything.
And every one of them in the
else.
same voice. The Royals gonna make it to the playoffs, dude?
That is weird.
It was the same guy.
No.
He's just very curious.
No.
And for the entire month until the Giants series, until Sunday, well, Saturday night, until Saturday night when the game was over, my answer was yes. Yes. Yeah, dude, they're going to make the playoffs. They're fine. They've given themselves such a buffer and a margin for error. They're going to make the playoffs. Then they get swept by the Giants. It's one thing to get swept by the Tigers, but you get swept by the Giants. You don't have the tiebreaker over the Twins. You've got a 1-game lead on the Twins with no tiebreaker.
Right.
You are tied with the Tigers, even though you have the tiebreaker. So you have a 1-game lead on the Tigers.
But they're still playing hot baseball. They're still playing good baseball, and we are not.
And they're playing the White Sox for 3 starting on Friday.
Yes. Not the Royals, folks. That would be the Tigers that get to play the White Sox.
So my answer is now, I actually don't know. I hope they do, but I do not know. Because even if they played bad baseball, you'd find a way to win 1 game against San Francisco. Even if you get swept by the Tigers, who are playing great baseball, you're playing the Tigers at the wrong time. You're not playing great. Tigers are playing awesome. It's one of those things where sometimes it's not who you play, but when you play them. And then they faced off against the Giants, and it's like, come on, why are you losing to the Giants? Okay, well now the Giants are 6-1 in their last 7. They won the series against the Orioles. They swept the Royals, and they just took Game 1 against the Diamondbacks last night. Those are 3 teams that are battling for the playoffs, and the Giants are out of it.
Yeah.
And now they're 6-1 against these playoff teams. What is your answer? I don't know. Yes, no. Bodeker's still like, they're making it. Don't worry, they're making it. I
Which
wish,
from Mike Boddicker is
wish
actually that's a flip of his script usually.
although that was last Wednesday. We'll see what tomorrow is. If he still has that same, like, they're definitely making it. But he's been really confident and like, guys, chill.
You know
We're gonna
why?
find a way to make it.
Because the strength of this team, besides Bobby Witt Jr.'s bat, is their starting pitching.
Yeah.
And so it's of course he's going to say that, and he's sticking up for his guys, and
But I
so
was
he
right
should.
there with him. I was
Yeah.
right there with him. I was not wavering even a little bit last Wednesday. And even with the loss to Detroit, that sucks. I thought they were going to lose that game on Wednesday because Scooball was going. We talked about it during the day. They're probably going to lose this game against Scooball. They're going to get swept. Friday and Saturday are crucial games against the Giants. What's
That you're going to have to face.
what do you think is going
Smell at
on
the end.
in the clubhouse for this Royals team? They have the mantra of every day is different. Today is only today. I don't know that you can look like the Royals have looked in these 7 games and say, oh no, they've washed what happened yesterday away and they're just focusing on today.
There's no way that every guy in the lineup. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is doing that. I think Salvi can do that. But I don't think some of those the marginal guys can do that. There's just no way, because when you're not producing at a level, I mean, you have yourself to look at. I mean, not only did they get swept in the Giants series, they got outscored 14-1. I mean, 14-1, and one was late in the first game, right? It was like the 9th inning or something that they scored the 1 run and then got shut out 9-0 and 2-0. And so the guys that aren't performing, and again, when they lose the one night they got 5 hits, well, Bobby Witt Jr. got 3 of them. It's not surprising because he's all world, but again, you're going to have guys that are pressing. There's no way as human beings and athletes you're not going to get in there and press. Like, maybe if I could have come through, wasn't for one stretch they were 0 for 6 or 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And so you can't help but to press. I don't care. Unless you're those special guys like Salvi and Witt, you're going to look at it and think, I got to come through here. I got to. And once you start saying, I got to, then that's when the pressing really starts, because then when you fail, it's overshadowed.
So I looked at the last 7 days, which is only the last 5 games. It's how it breaks down.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. It's the last 5 games. Guess how many Royals are batting over 167?
One.
3 over 167.
Okay.
Yuli Gurriel,
Yeah, I was going to say Gurriel's one of them. Bobby's one of them.
235. Bobby 400, and then MJ's 3 for 6. So that technically counts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That counts. Batting 500.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a small
But
sample
he's the
size
guy
in that
we
group.
said. He's the guy that we said, though, as we
Yeah.
approach the playoffs, he's going to be the guy that's going to have to pick it up. We just didn't know that everybody else was going to tank.
That he was going to have to pick it up. Everybody else was going to drop it.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate that that's sort of been the case. Tommy Pham is in a big-time slump and has been struggling. Since they won the first 2 games against the Pirates, Tommy Pham is 4 for 28 with 11 strikeouts and no walks.
That
as
guy
the leadoff hitter.
seems like a natural presser. He's always kind of wound tight.
He's
on a new
he's
brand.
going to
Mr.
be
Intensity.
intense guy. He's not going to try less hard.
Yeah.
He's not going to just don't squeeze the bat. Like he's going to squeeze the bat like whoever the guy was in Rookie of the Year.
It's not the same
Yeah.
position, but hold it like an egg.
Yeah, right.
You know?
But like Parkman in Major League, but it was the guy in Rookie of the Year with Henry Rowan Gardner that came up to the plate that was squeezing the bat, and you saw the dust come off of it. Right, that's Tommy Pham right now. He's squeezing the bat so hard that there's like sawdust coming off of that
And
thing.
what makes it funnier is that he is 4th in average over this time behind Gurriel, Bobby, and MJ. That goes to show you how bad Kyle, Salvi, Frazier, Paul DeYoung, Michael Massey, Michael Garcia, Hunter Renfroe, Freddie Fermin.
You have a different definition of funny than I do. You said, what makes that funny?
So look, as we talk about the question though that we're getting asked,
Are they going to make?
are they capable?
There you go.
Absolutely, they are.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't just some big negative ride, and we're giving up on them with a week left of baseball. They are absolutely capable. They could sweep Washington and take 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. I don't think they're going to sweep the Braves, but they might. Who knows? So we don't know yet, and it starts back up tonight. But look, they are absolutely capable of doing that. You know, all our frontline guys got 1 more start left. Who's starting tonight, by the way?
Reagan's.
Okay, so
Reagan's.
he's got 2.
Yep.
Right? He's got 2 starts left tonight and maybe to close at the end. So that gives you a shot. That gives you a really good shot to win 2 right there. Doesn't say he will. The guy's human. But, I mean, there's still some hope left. And so it's not like we're 3 out with 6. We're tied in one area, got a little bit of a lead in another. There is absolutely still hope. The problem is that this offensive lack is going to have to change. It's going to have to change. Guys are going to have to step up and quit. And we ask the question, can guys forget about it? Are guys in the clubhouse thinking about it? You better be smart enough, or Salvi might need to have a team meeting and say, look, you have to forget about it. You know, grow up, suck it up, whatever you need to do to get your mind right to say forget about it. We got 6 to play. Yes, you can only win what's going on tonight, but it's time to get after it.
Yeah, what I'm going to say is a lot like the closer in the 9th that you got to get there before, you can even rely on having the closer in the 9th. So I acknowledge this frustration that's come up because of how they've played. Lugo pitched Sunday. Reagan's pitching tonight. Reagan's then would be in line to pitch on Sunday. Lugo pitching Saturday. So you would have those guys going Saturday and Sunday to close out the season. What you have done, though, is you've put yourself in a position where you probably have to throw those guys Saturday and Sunday. And what have we been talking about the playoffs is, hey, Reagan's, Lugo, and Waka lining up in a 3-game series. I'll take my chances with that. If Lugo's pitching Saturday and Reagan's is pitching Sunday, who's pitching Tuesday? It's Michael Waka.
It's Waka.
There's game 1.
Yeah.
Then you're coming
Which I
back
like
on,
our chances there.
Right. And then you got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You would have 3 days rest instead of 4 days rest for Lugo. 3 days rest instead of 4 days rest for Reagan's if you get to game 3. They had given themselves a buffer that they could have got to those final couple of games and said, these don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So we're not going to throw Lugo and Reagan Saturday and Sunday.
That's right.
Those guys are going Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's and again, you got to get to the playoffs before you worry about that.
Right.
That's my point about getting to the 9th before you worry about your closer. And we're going to save our closer for the 9th and have somebody else get through the 8th. Okay, well you aren't going to get there.
But it's a great point because it's not favorable.
Yeah.
It's not favorable. You can still get in the playoffs, but the goal of getting in the playoffs is, hey, we made the playoffs. You know, after losing 106 last year, we don't now care if we lose the first game or the first series and we're out of the wild card. No, you press to the playoffs, you can get to at least game 4 of the World Series, right?
Yep.
So that's the idea. So it's not while you play, you're right, but you have to think that a little bit. And so it does put a little bit more pressure on you, but then now you kind of have to forget about it because what's done is done.
It is crazy, the difference in opinion right now. Both teams are 82 and 74, the Royals and the Tigers. The Royals have scored 59 more runs this season than the Tigers.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
It's just-
but the Tigers are the one that's hot. They're the ones scoring runs. They're the ones finishing games right now. Just it is insane how the past month, the seasons and the script have since the All-Star break almost. I mean, the Royals did come out hot after, but since then, it's really shifted. The Tigers have been the hot one. Those fans are loving the ride right now.
Yeah, Waka's going to go, and it's just been so different, teams heading in the opposite directions. Waka's going to pitch on Thursday in the afternoon game, and then that would actually present regular rest for him to start Tuesday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, pitch on Tuesday, which would be game one of a wild card series.
Still comfortable with that.
If they get there. Yeah, if he was going to pitch in the 3 games, that's fine. And then
Let's
you
just
go.
get there, man.
I totally agree with that.
I'm just.
No, I am totally
I
in
know,
agreement
and
with that.
you keep giving
You
us
just can't do it, man.
I can't do it. Like
Right, I know. I'm
that's
in
why I
agreement.
was nervous before the Detroit
Right,
series.
but this is
Dylan, do we have a counselor that is part of the staff
This
here or
is-
something?
It's Dylan.
I'm the
It-
unlicensed one.
That's you?
It's
All right,
Dylan.
all right.
No, this is the point that I'm making of what the Royals have done while they have lost. They gave themselves a margin for error. They have lost the margin for error, so they still, according to Baseball Reference, have a 64% chance of making the playoffs, and according to Fangraphs, a 66% chance of making the playoffs. But that has nothing included of like what it looks like they're doing
gonna
as
say,
of late. What the last 10 games are, what they're doing offensively. Those are just the algorithm of it. And so I get the point of just making the playoffs, absolutely. But part of the excitement of making the playoffs was, man, you're going to throw Reagans, Lugo, and Waka out there for a 3-game set. I'll take my chances.
And you
there.
looked like you were hitting your stride going into the playoffs
Yeah.
versus this.
Yeah.
But the good news about baseball
Yeah.
is that it takes one weird play. Like it could happen tonight where we get something to break our way and the Twins and Tigers both lose and we pick up a game and it's completely flipped back on its head and all the confidence is back. That's the good news about baseball. The problem is they've had this mentality of, well, it's just about the next day. Don't worry about this day. That's pretty easy when you have 60 games behind the next day instead of, 6 or 7.
And after the 7-game losing streak, they went 5-1 over their next 6 games. They
Right.
were struggling. They had scored
and
3
then what
runs.
happened?
Well, there are only 6 games left.
A 7-game losing streak.
Well, no,
Another one.
No, they went 2-1 I'm just talking about the first
Yeah.
6 games. So after the 7-game losing streak, they went 7-2. But they went 5-1 in those first 6 games after the 7-game losing streak. I'm hoping that history will repeat itself this go around,
Same.
and they'll go 5-1.
Yep.
They will absolutely be in the playoffs if that's the case. If they go 5-1,
And they'll be red,
I
like-
guess Detroit can go undefeated, and Minnesota can go undefeated.
Obviously, this is way more
but
stressful, but this is what you want. You do not want to be sitting guys and doing simulated games with 5
Yeah.
games. You'd rather be,
In the hunt.
a serious sense of urgency even with the last week of the regular season.
Yeah. And it's not what we have found out also is momentum at the end of the season heading into the playoffs is immaterial because the Diamondbacks and the Rangers were struggling last year heading into the postseason. They were
good
struggling to get to the finish line. And then they played each other in the, in the World Series. And the Diamondbacks were bad the last couple of weeks. Like, oh my God, they're going to blow it. Like, this team is going to blow this. And then all of a sudden they're playing in the World Series. So there's at least recent history of what has happened with a team that's looked like this. And then, got it going at the right time. But
And the other thing, too, with the way that gambling works now, it always feels like whatever everyone says is going to happen. If everyone thinks the Royals are struggling and whoever's playing them is just an easy sweep into the ALDS, the opposite happens. So, I mean, I to your point right there, everyone probably was like, well, the Diamondbacks are just a walkover for the Dodgers, and lo and behold, they're in the World Series.
yeah, well, although the Royals are minus 165 tonight in Washington. So they're heavy favorites.
Well,
but still.
I think Abrams has that line.
He would not bet against his team. He would just.
Oh,
be-
you're right.
He wouldn't be there for the game,
Yeah,
or he'd be
roulette.
there an hour
Yeah,
before
you're
the
right,
game
yeah,
because he'd be playing craps, or he'd be at the blackjack table there. Let me ask you this, Les. They played so well at home all year, and that's what kind of felt like a wet fart this last homestand with the sweep to the Tigers and sweep to the Giants. And I can understand fans sort of being frustrated at the last couple of games. I thought about taking my son out there. We didn't go. And then after the games, I'm like, I'm glad we didn't end up going there because we'd have been sitting there bored. Is there can you exhale and breathe a little bit easier when you get away and go on the road? Is there something to that? If I'm not trying to just search here. I'm actually wondering if a team is struggling at home and they have a homestand like this where they're hearing the boos. The boos came out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they're hearing the boos. Can there be a sort of maybe a rallying together, just a relax a little bit by just getting away and going on the road to Washington?
Yeah, I was in a suite on Sunday and could hear the boos up in the suite.
Yeah.
And the TV was on mute because we had both. And the game's always like 2 seconds ahead or second and a half ahead. So I was watching and down on the field through the walls of the suite there in the glass, and you could hear it a little bit. So, I mean, I think it depends on the person if you want to get away or not. I think more pressing for me is that when you know all year you've been pretty good at home and it's your comfortable place.
Yeah.
Now, do I think Royals fans, and you're all going to hate me if you were one of the booers, and I don't care. But look, Jamie Bloom has said it this morning. I completely agree. Even if they don't make the playoffs, this has been an amazing season. To go from 106 losses to where we are right now has been unbelievable. Now, again, the end goal is not, let's just improve upon last year, and if we don't, every year should be a push to the playoffs. Last year, that's not realistic. This year, some people thought, some people didn't, but here we are, man. We're right there. So it can be, when not just for home, but when you have a difficult streak, it is good to get away, pack your bags, get on a bus to the airport, get on a plane, get out of here, go eat a nice dinner out there in Washington, and then go down to Atlanta. Yeah, it's great. Bottom line is, though, you still, it's like the movie Hoosiers when he's doing the tape measure. See, still 10 feet. You know, they're 10 feet, and the distance is all the same. So you have to be able to still play within the same dimensions and get after it. So if that's the mindset break that they need, then by all means, yeah, enjoy getting away from home. You know, every once in a while, we all like getting away and just taking a little mental break. Great, do it. The off day was perfect timing, I think, no matter where it was. But do what you got to do, because when the game starts tonight, it's right back to work.
Yeah, this would be Sunday was the last game at Kauffman Stadium, either for the season until October 8th. So hopefully October 8th, the Royals are playing a home game at Kauffman Stadium in Game 3 of the divisional series.
I will have my strips purchased.
I'll be there. If October 8th, if they're playing Game 3 of a divisional series, no matter the feeling right now, I'll be there. You know, and we'll see what this team will be capable of. I want to take a timeout. I want to come back, and I want to get into sort of the Giants. I mentioned that they're playing really good baseball right now once they were eliminated. The Royals, now that it's crunch time of, hey, the playoffs are right there, all you got to do is win some games, are now puckering and creating diamonds. What that has in common, and it's a little frustrating looking at the previous Septembers of this Royals team. We'll talk about that next. 30. Oh, no. Another bite. Another bite. Oh, I did hear the 30. I just wasn't. I heard it. It didn't register.
You're in your mod pizza trance.
I was in my mod, my mod era.
And you don't inhale food like I do. You got to inhale it.
You have finished 3 pieces of pizza, a no-name cake, and a salad,
And 3 breadsticks.
all while we
Wow.
were talking with Les.
That was me eating slow.
Yeah. All right, Les. September.
Do you remember?
Yeah. 20. Oh,
A little past it, isn't it?
Yeah, 21st
yeah, that's
night.
right. It was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it. Why wasn't anybody and everybody on Twitter that day doing that? Like,
They did.
okay, I just missed it. Sorry. I was paying attention to the sports stuff.
It was Saturday,
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably right.
watching college football.
So we see teams that are playing better baseball. Obviously, the Tigers are in it, and they are on their way back, and they're playing great baseball. They're passing teams that are now something to lose instead of something to win. You're in the playoffs. The only way you don't make the playoffs is if you lose it. That was the Royals. That was the Twins. Guardians, Astros, Yankees, Orioles. Tigers, you got to play out of your mind to make the playoffs, and they have done that. Well,
Yeah.
the teams have come back. What do you think? What do you feel as a baseball player? What do you see when you've got a team like the Tigers that are just playing great baseball now? That now they're playing on cloud 9 because they've gone from 11 games out to now they're in the wild card spot. A game up on the Twins, and you got the Giants that were going for it. They made trades. The Tigers traded players away. The Giants acquired players, including one of the Tigers players. And the Giants are now beating playoff teams. And the playoff teams are now losing down the stretch. Is that just, hey, it's baseball, or is there something between the ears that's going on with that when 162 and it's not like football to where, you got a 1-game lead over this team. Well, you go out there and play 1 game for 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And that decides a lot. This is like stringing these games together where it feels like it's a slow burn of just here's a cut, here's a cut, here's a cut, and next thing you know, you're bleeding out.
Yeah, I think it's both, actually, because baseball, it's just a streaky game. You're going to have winning streaks, you're going to have losing streaks, just all part of it. When you have that many games, it is what it is. I mean, I'm amazed when you watch, like listening to Phil Jackson growing up in Chicago, following the Bulls, being the Michael Jordan guy, and The Last Dance, on Netflix, just getting into the mind of NBA coaches where they talk about, okay, well, if we win the next 8 minutes by 7 points, and we're trying to win, the third quarter by 5 points, and then that'll set us up to only have to win the fourth quarter by 11. And good teams do that to the point. I mean, I'm amazed at the psyche that goes into that, with NBA coaches. And so when you have that's what was it, 81, 82 games in the NBA season, 82? So 162 games in a big league season, you are going to have those pendulum swings back and forth. The better teams, it doesn't swing so far to the losing side. But I promise you this, right now the Detroit Tigers are not looking at the Twins, and they're not looking at the Royals. And they're not looking at Seattle, and they're not looking at Boston, and they are confident walking in like, we're going to mow you, and even if we don't, you're going to know we're here, and we know we're going to be there at the end. Tell me the Royals are not watching the Twins and the Tigers. When you're playing really well and you have the pendulum swing that way, you could care less what anybody else is doing. But when you're trying to battle through the negative pendulum swing, not only are you like, oh, man, I just hope we win tonight. We really got to put this together. And you're also scoreboard watching. Where are the Tigers tonight? Who are they playing? What's the score of the game? You know what I mean? How many people do you guys think, and there's no way we'll know this unless we would ask, and we would never be able to ask. But, when you go to a game and you see the scoreboard on the wall, right? How many of those guys are looking like, oh, man, there's the Tigers beating the Orioles again, and the Twins lost 8-1 in that first game, so there's a little bit of breathing room. They're watching it. It's all over the place.
Just
so
don't let them. Take it off.
Yeah,
No,
not going to happen.
Don't do that.
Not-
Washington, no.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it unfortunately, it's just part of the game where sometimes the negative pendulum swing happens near the end of the season with teams like the Royals who are in the playoffs. It's just also unfortunate that when you're hot and you're in a playoff race like the Tigers are, They're not looking at anybody else. They're confident they don't care, and that is not what the Royals are going through.
So we've always talked about, not always, but a lot of time we've talked about the Royals being September Warriors when they were already eliminated. Like, oh, they're eliminated. Hey, look, now they're going to start winning in September. Well, that might carry over next year. And, they're starting to learn how to win. It's a younger team. Look at Mondesi. He's really playing great baseball. I feel like if Mondesi just stays healthy, like you see why they were winning in September, because Mondesi was just doing he looked like an MVP.
If Mondesi was on this team, there would not be a 7-game losing streak.
No, there'd be a 12-game losing streak. So 2018. So I started in 2018 because 2017 they were essentially a 500 team. 2016 above 500. 2015 we know that. So since that stretch run of 13 through 17, 2018 is when it went the exact opposite. They lost 104 games. Went from 84 losses to 104. 2018 104 losses. September they were 15-13, a 536 winning percentage in September. 2019, they had 103 losses. In September, they went 11-14, a 440 winning percentage. Okay,
I'd take that right now.
2020, they
Believe
were
it.
pacing for 92 losses. It was a shortened season, so they paced for 92 losses is how they were playing. September, they went 12-13, so a 480 winning percentage. 2021, they had 88 losses. Went 14-14 in September, played 500 baseball. 2022, 97 losses. Went 10-16 in September for a 385 winning percentage. That's the outlier. 2023, last year, they had 106 losses. They were 14-12 in September.
And now,
538. This year, they are 7-12 in September for a 368 winning percentage, which is 20 points lower than the 385 winning percentage, which was the lowest before this year. They won at clips of 536, 440, 480, 500, 385, 538, 368 when it actually matters. 368 when it actually bleeping matters.
So back to your first question.
Yeah.
Remember, you said, what is the question that you and I are asked all the time?
Yeah.
What is this? Do you have a second most asked question? I have one. Just want to see if you had one.
What's for dinner?
No. Regarding the Royals.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
going to say, what's for dinner is definitely asked, once a day in my house. Well, twice a day. Both Jules and Everett have to ask it.
Sure.
But I'm asked 3 times a day of are they going to make the playoffs.
Hey, Les,
Yeah. What's up?
are the Royals going to make the playoffs?
It's not the second most question. That's number one. The second most question is, can a guy like Vinny really?
Oh, you know what? I wrote that down.
Did you?
I wrote that down as in this can't all be Vinny,
Can
right?
one guy's absence?
Different variations. This can't all be Vinny, right?
Yeah.
Is this all
the
connected
same?
to Vinny?
Right. Those all count as the same question.
Great call.
And my a while ago was, you know what? I think they'll be all right. The Royals are proactive, and Matt Cotrero has done such an incredible job. If they don't make the playoffs, it is not on that guy. I mean, he has been incredible this year, the way he's turned things around, the way he's handled the team, the way he goes out in his press conferences and how consistent he is. I mean, just at a golf tournament early in the year out at the National, just sitting and talking to him for 15 minutes about family. I mean, he's just an awesome guy. Just the way he was talking to his children and dealing with people. I mean, just what a great guy, what a great hire he was. But I'm really now thinking that maybe Vinny was him getting hurt was the difference. I mean, it shouldn't be one guy, right? I mean, think about it. It shouldn't be. You guys should be asking me this, but I'm asking you this. Is one guy, but I'll tell you what, when you love a guy and you have a leader like that, knowing he got hurt last year, then he got hurt this year, and your heart breaks for the guy, and then statistically you lose that 100 RBI guy, and he's can offer protection for Salvi and blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is maybe, just maybe, a big part of this was losing one of your heroes in the lineup.
Well, and you got 3 guys. You had 3 guys that you could sort of rely on: Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi. Well, is this all because they lost Vinny? Well, it's not all because they lost Vinny, but when you lose one of your 3 guys that you relied on, that does offer a little bit of protection to Bobby. That now, with Salvi struggling, and whoever else is batting third, no reason to pitch to Bobby. No reason whatsoever to pitch to Bobby. And when Bobby gets on, is somebody driving him in? At least Vinny was doing that.
Yeah.
Like productive outs, getting RBIs, whether sac flies, finding ways to drive in runners that were on the base is what Vinny was doing. So is it all Vinny? It's not all Vinny because other guys have also been playing some bad baseball. But when you've got Vinny in the lineup, your number 6 hitter is a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
When Vinny's out of the lineup, well, now your number 6 hitter has become your number 5 hitter. Now your number 5 hitter is worse because he was your number 6.
Right.
Now your number 4 hitter is worse because he was your number 5.
Let's
And-
also factor in, too, Jason, that when a pitcher is going to pitch those guys differently when Vinny's in the lineup, and oftentimes when they have to adjust their pitching, they'll throw more pitches. So now they're tapped in the 6th inning. Now you've got these guys that are cruising because they don't have to make certain pitches or they don't have to. Now you get the same guys in the 8th inning that they're stretching them out. And so one guy really can make a difference.
I think I love Vinny too. I think
Shouldn't
we're acting
you be
like
eating?
it's Mike Trout.
Shouldn't you should
prime
be
Mike
eating?
Trout. I should be eating. I could crush
Nobody
some more.
I think there's a
no-name cake.
difference between saying he's Mike Trout or
No,
he
but-
was incredibly important to this lineup that's surrounded by Jags and 3 guys that aren't Jags.
I get it, but his OPS is 760, and we're acting like it's an 850.
Okay, well,
It's
what's
not
his-
so much the numbers. I only mentioned the RBI.
Yeah, but you're looking at season OPS. What's he done since the All-Star break? He was OPSing at like
sure,
980.
he was really, really good.
Okay, so now you're
But-
admitting
but-
he was
but
a big
you-
part.
you
So
shouldn't
which
go
is
on
it?
two
Which is it,
se-
Sterling? Is it 760 for the season, or is it a guy that was OPSing 1,000 in the last month and a half? Like
Losing
that's
a
a difference.
dude should not count as two
Right, okay.
two separate 7-game losing streaks. It should not count as the biggest choke job we have seen. Is Spike Lee somewhere? And did Reggie Miller come out and say fourth quarter choke to him?
Should it count for
It's
the
absurd.
offense? Should it count for the offense going stagnant?
Is he right? Why
Okay,
Tommy
okay.
Pham became ass at the
look
top
at the
of the lineup?
veins in his neck right now.
Tommy Pham
God.
became Tommy Pham.
Right.
That's the point. They were relying on Tommy Pham to be more than Tommy Pham because
Now
they
look
lost
at the
somebody
veins in
who
his
was
neck now.
actually good. They had to go get Tom. They were
Sure,
relying
man.
on
Yeah,
Yuri
the
Gurriel.
Royals can all of a sudden turn into a third-grade lineup because Vinny's gone.
They were a third-grade lineup. What the bleep are you talking
They have
about?
scored 100 more runs than the Detroit Tigers
Like I'm taking
this
crazy pills.
season.
All of a sudden, Hunter Renfroe is Babe Ruth, and
So
Kyle
glad I
Isbell is
asked this
Lorenzo
question.
Kane.
No. Let
Ladies
me go
and
back. Let me
gentlemen,
go.
All of
You're
a
welcome.
sudden,
This
the
bad boy up.
lineup we were complaining about all year that would go into these slumps, that was living off runners in scoring position, that we'd say is so hot and cold because they don't have good enough consistency throughout their lineup that they would go so hot that they had Garrett Hampson and Adam Frazier hitting. Now all of a sudden, to Sterling was like the 27 Yankees? And all you did was take Ruth out of the 27 Yankees, and they should still be
They still
playing
have
the way that they were?
60 more runs scored than the Detroit Tigers.
Cool.
If you are collapsing because you lose one guy in your lineup,
Means you weren't that good of a team to win the World Series. It means you were probably barely trying to hold on for the playoffs because your pitching staff was brilliant, which is what this team was.
so you're telling me without
telling
Vinny,
you.
this is they're a 0-run team that they should just pack it in. That Vinny was the magic sauce that made the offense anything decent.
No, I said that Vinny made a big impact on this offense. He
Yes.
wasn't the only offense. Bobby Witt's the best player. But when you can pitch around Bobby Witt, he's less effective. You have essentially taken Vinny out of your lineup, and you get less of a Bobby because he's not getting pitches to hit because Michael Massey is protecting him.
And they're moving Salvi up there.
Right, who is trying to hit 5-run home runs because Michael Massey is protecting him.
Again,
or MJ Melendez or Hunter Renfroe.
If you collapse, I'm not saying he's not important.
Apparently, Vinny Pasquantino sucks.
I never said he's not important or not a
Okay.
good player.
Well, I didn't say that Vinny Pasquantino was the only good player on the
No,
in
but
the
you're
lineup.
but you're saying this makes sense why the Royals went from having the most runs scored in the AL Central. Now they're two runs behind the Minnesota Twins.
Okay.
Right? All because of one guy. If that's the case, who was getting on in front of Vinny? Not just Bobby. It wasn't just Bobby.
Nobody was getting on in front of Bobby. That was
Yeah,
the
that's
complaint
whole
all
point.
year.
The start was,
Is that
but he
nobody was
did
getting
not
on.
drive in just Bobby Witt
He
Jr.
did not. He did not just drive in Bobby Witt Jr.
And that's my point. Just
Most of the time, it
every
was just
single other
driving it
player-
himself.
I mean, he would. I mean, yeah, he was driving in.
Every other player, even Bobby to an extent, has taken a steep downturn.
Yes.
A steep downturn. But
Because now Michael Massey needs to bat third.
okay, but
He's not a number 3 hitter.
sure, but he should still be putting the same numbers he was without him there. MJ Melendez, Paul DeYoung,
Right,
all
but-
these guys. Hunter Renfroe has all of a sudden after that little stretch he
I mean,
had
that's
where he's
like-
good,
that-
has
that-
turned into 2 scoops of ass.
That's like saying like
ridiculous.
That's like saying Paulo Orlando is really awesome as the 4th outfielder.
This is the
he's
butterfly effect.
Now he's the center fielder. Why isn't he putting up the exact same MJ Melendez?
What in the
Well,
butterfly effect is happening right now?
What you're saying is the exact opposite of what you've been saying about MJ Melendez. They have been using MJ Melendez perfectly because they're not needing him every single day.
It's been great.
Right, because
Until
they're
they
using-
have to use him every day. I get that.
Oh, so why do they?
Fred
Hold on,
for me
hold on,
played every
hold on,
single day.
hold
Same
on. Why
thing,
do-
over sample
Sterling,
size.
Sterling, why do they have to use him every single day now?
Hey, my
I'm just
point
wondering-
here
hold on,
is-
hold on. Why do they have to use him every single day now?
If you are collecting,
Why do they have to use him every single
because
day now?
Garrett Hampson and Adam
Why do they have to
Frazier
use him every single
are
day? He
buns.
doesn't want to answer the question.
They're buns.
Why do they have to use these guys more often and every day now?
Because Vinny's hurt.
Okay, thanks. We'll take a break. So Les,
Have you guys recovered? Are you all right?
oh, we're
We
good.
shook hands.
Okay.
We had fun in the break. We high-fived and everything. Is it all because of Vinny?
It's a butterfly. A butterfly in Africa landed on a
Maybe.
giraffe,
My
and
favorite
now
Sterling,
Hunter
they just
Renfro
miss
can't
him a
hit.
little bit, man.
Now
They just miss him.
I miss him too.
My favorite part is Sterling and I going back and forth and Les eating mod pizza watching.
and trying not to
Sitting back
choke.
and
I was
chewing
laughing
on-
so
He
hard.
moved his mic all the way over. He's like, I'm done
Push it.
talking.
I'm done.
Sitting here eating pizza watching. Like,
It's like a Batman villain just threw it all in emotion and left.
You guys are so entertaining.
you're the man, Les. Do they make the playoffs next time we talk? Are we getting ready for a
Yes,
playoff game?
barely. I'm going to say yes, barely. The last
Okay.
day.
All right. Next Tuesday, we'll be talking about a wild card game. Love you, brother.
You too.
Todd Lebo hanging out with us here on this Tuesday edition of the show. One more hour to go. We got some Arrowhead Pride coming tonight at 6 o'clock with Pete Sweeney, Jack Johnson, and then 8 o'clock, Bethany Bowman. She's on the mic, and then Covell following at 9 o'clock with a little sports night. That's going on tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Todd, what's it the home of?
Everything that's effing great.
That's exactly right. I heard somebody say that once.
And
It's
where
true.
do we live?
Kansas City.
No, do it. Come on.
I'm not doing it.
City.
Why?
That was illegally recorded.
Oh, it was now.
Illegally
Shared.
recorded.
Well, it wasn't illegally recorded. Illegally shared.
Yeah, there was
you don't trust Ben Messner.
Two-person consent for recording these phone calls.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That was
You
in
didn't
the
get your
studio
consent?
in there. One of those things.
Not
He
get your
just files
consent.
stuff. Well, listen to it, the guys. I think it's funny.
It's not a big deal. It'll never reach the airwaves.
No, he knows what
Not a
exactly
big
what he's
deal.
doing.
Yeah, it's not a
This will
big deal at
definitely
all.
reach the airwaves.
Yeah, and it did.
Definitely, and it does.
It's been great. It's been fantastic, man. Todd Lebo is hanging out with us. Todd, the Chiefs maybe feel fortunate for being 3-0, but they're not 0-3
No.
like the Bengals. And the Ravens saved their season probably by holding on against the Cowboys, sitting at 1-2. The Bills look awesome.
They look
But
great.
like through 3 weeks of the season, you know, the teams that we were talking about being up there with the Chiefs as who's going to compete with the Chiefs at the top of the AFC, there's like one team right there that actually looks like a team that can compete with the Chiefs and hasn't started off slow to the point that Chiefs beat the Ravens. Maybe the Ravens still have a point. Hey, you know, they blew that game against the Raiders. That was just bad football.
I expect
could
they'll
have
be
won against
around,
the Chiefs.
you know.
Yeah, could be 3-0. Could also be 0-3. But the Bengals don't look right. Or maybe they just look like they typically do in September. Miami doesn't have Tua. Jacksonville's got Trevor Lawrence and whatever's going on there in Jacksonville. The Chargers, surprisingly, for the first time I can ever remember, are really banged up and hurt. So that's
Never happens.
out of the ordinary for them. Cleveland
Yeah, when I
has
saw
a sexual
Bosa
predator.
leave the game, I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, that's
That
weird.
just doesn't happen.
Cleveland's got a sexual predator. The Jets.
I think the
we'll
Jets
see.
are a little
Yeah,
better than I thought.
They are.
That's what they are. Now their offense is still it's okay, but it hasn't been great, you know. But they look like a legitimate football team, and I think they'd wish they were playing the Niners this week than Week 1. You know,
Right.
tough deal for them. They do not look like they're going to, in my opinion, right now, push the Bills real hard in that division. But we'll see. The Bills' schedule is going to get a little rough for them. Everyone, you're going to. They're hard schedules in the NFL. But you know, we'll watch the Jets. I'll track them a little bit.
It's weird how teams. I talked about this with Teicher. Like early on in the season, like teams' personalities, and that we talked about with organizations and franchises. Like they are continuing that trend. The Chiefs win early. Okay, they've done that. The Bengals lose early. Okay, they've done that. And the Bills come out of the gates looking like maybe the best team in the NFL. And then they slow down, and then at the end of the season, they try to recreate and get back to that feeling they had in September. How many years in a row have we sort of been following this kind of script of
It has, and
the
it's been the
NFL.
same kind of teams around the whole time. And I guess maybe it's unfair for me to just overlook the fact that Pittsburgh is 3-0, but they just look plodding and typical Pittsburgh. So that's what, like the Bengals and the Ravens have to contend with. I mean, they don't just go beat that team either.
Yeah.
So they're going to fight a lot in that division. I'll be interested to watch. I think it's Broncos-Jets this weekend. The Broncos opened my eyes last week. All right. Rookie quarterbacks are finding their feet a little bit. Obviously, last night was outstanding for Daniels. And Bo Nix, while he didn't throw for 4 touchdowns or anything, commanded his offense against the Bucs on the road. Got that done. Caleb Williams finally threw a couple of touchdown passes or whatever, but they still look like a mess there. It takes a little while for these guys to get going. I'm going to watch that one. Watch that Jets-Broncos game this weekend. Because, listen, as much as we make fun of everyone in the AFC West because the Chiefs win all the time, the Broncos did beat the Chiefs last year. They turned the ball over a whole bunch of times, whatever, and they kind of fought them on that Thursday night game at home, too. That wasn't some easy game.
And the Raiders beat the Chiefs at home.
They did. I don't think
Christmas.
the Raiders are going to be a real factor in this. I think they look like a mess right now.
They're going to have to come up with the Andy Dalton rules. I know that they
but
got
then
the
the
Patrick
Raiders
Mahomes rules,
somehow
but
won,
in Baltimore.
In Baltimore. The league just does that.
Well, that's
sometimes.
like I've tried to write all of these down on yesterday afternoon when I was thinking about how crazy Week 3 felt like. Giants were 0-2. They went to Cleveland and won 21-15. Texans,
after fumbling the opening kickoff,
right,
and being down 7 points, 10 seconds into the
right.
game.
And Daniel Jones actually played a good game. Texans were 2-0. They got blown out by the
Atrocious.
Vikings 34-7. Saints scored 91 points the first 2 weeks. They lost at home to Philadelphia, scoring 12 points, a Philadelphia team that just lost at home the week before to Atlanta. Chargers controlled a good portion of the game and still lost to Pittsburgh by 10. That one. Bucks were 2-0. They won at Detroit. They lost by 3 touchdowns to the winless Broncos.
To a rookie quarterback.
Denver had 26 total points. They scored, 26 against Tampa Bay. Panthers looked like the worst team in the NFL. Disorganized, dysfunctional, bad. They went to Vegas and won by 2 touchdowns
Who had just
against
beaten
the
the
Vegas that just went to Baltimore and won. And the Panthers lost their first 2 weeks by a combined 60 points. Cowboys went to Cleveland in Week 1 and won by 16. Last 2 weeks, they've given up 72 points.
Unbelievable.
The Rams lose by 31 to Arizona Week 2, down 21-7 late. Last 18 minutes, they outscore San Francisco 20-4. 49ers won 32-17 Week 1 against the Jets. They've scored 41 points since. Ravens lost at home to Vegas. They go to Dallas and dominate and controlled the game and ran all over the Cowboys. Like, Week 1 and 2 to Week 3, we're like, what in the hell's going on?
That's why the
we
Chiefs
know
should
nothing.
just feel lucky they survived the week.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah.
This
You know
is
nothing.
really funny with Pittsburgh. They are 3-0. They've put up 51 points. That's 17 a game. But they're giving up 26 and 3. They're giving up 8.5 points a game
Yeah.
defensively.
Haven't really
So
been
good,
close.
man.
I mean, their game against Falcons was a little bit close, right?
I saw a really good tweet, and I think it's going to be fun. Andy Dalton goes to every single team that's in disarray, like it's a bar rescue, but it's Andy Dalton
Fixes it.
rescue. He just
for a
see if he
little
can
bit.
fix it. Yeah.
That's stealing. That's what he just tells them all. He just fix it, tear it all down. We're starting over. That's what he does at every single organization.
There's something to
Next
be
stop, Tennessee.
They are a mess.
Will Levis, that's stealing.
Andy
You're stealing
Dalton
money.
would be a really good quarterback for them.
Yeah.
He actually would. Because they have some talent on that team in a lot of places, but Will Levis is
Did you enjoy
not good.
Did you enjoy the Malik Willis revenge game against the Titans, looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the
I
Titans?
remember Malik Willis coming into Arrowhead a couple of years ago or whatever it was. And it was rough for him.
Yeah.
People say that's the greatest coaching job of all time, just to get it into overtime with Malik Willis as your quarterback against Mahomes.
That was one of those. That was 2 years ago, right? When the Chiefs were like they caught a few breaks playing against backup quarterbacks, and they weren't super impressive against a lot of those, but
they went through that round
found
with a lot of
ways.
backup quarterbacks. They found ways to win. We were
It's
at
like
that
the
game. It was
Royals'
miserable.
offense sometimes.
Who was that? That was the Rams had a backup too, and it was ugly. I can't remember who the Rams had at quarterback that day.
The Chargers have
it was the Wolford or
Will Wolford.
wasn't it Wolford?
Yeah.
Someone
Wofford
like that.
or something like that?
Yes, I think you're right.
And then
John
was
Wofford or
was
something.
Easton Stick playing for the Chargers in that
It was like
stretch
3
too?
or 4 straight weeks, yeah.
And they did. It's not like they boat raced them all.
Well, no,
but they had a parade at the end of the year. So
they don't boat race anybody. They don't look like the Bills have looked 2 of the first 3 games that they've played. I mean, the Bills were down 17-3, and since being down by 14 points, they have outscored people by like 70 or 80. I think
They have
it's
scored
just
112 points.
So they've scored 109. How much have they given up?
48.
So they've been 109 to 31
Yeah.
in the last 4, 8, 12 quarters.
It's pretty good.
Or 10 quarters.
Pretty good.
10
They
quarters of
look
football.
good, and this is an interesting thing. I think they kind of followed a little bit what the Chiefs did. You've got your quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't need to pay someone $100 million to be a wide receiver. They let Stephon Diggs go.
Gabe Davis
came back for his revenge game and did what? Caught a pass, maybe? Two
caught
passes?
17 yards receiving.
Yeah.
Injured his
I had
shoulder.
him over 29 and a half. That's
Problem-
it. Just
Didn't
over
get there.
against his old team. That's easy.
Problem is, though, Lebo, with their method is that it was almost a necessity because they had already paid Von Miller.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh,
they-
yeah.
They, also had to
They
cut
made their own
Poyer
mess.
Kind of
and-
like a necessity with the Chiefs. Like, do you trade Tyreek and lose, or do you keep
Keep
Tyreek
Wells.
and lose Chris
Chris
Jones?
Jones.
No, I'm saying the
Yep.
Bills, though, still lost other.
Yeah.
Like, they had to cut
Sure
Jordan
they
Poyer.
did. Yeah, they have things they got to do.
Both
Yeah.
their safeties are gone.
But they have, and I would say offensively, the one thing that has worked out for them is, you know, we looked at the Chiefs wide receiving core last year and how bad it is and the dropped passes. Josh Allen's been awesome, but they ain't dropping passes either. Khalil Shakir is stepping up in the way that people thought Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore would have stepped up with given the opportunity.
You saying they haven't?
They did not. Narrator steps in and says that neither Kadarius
MVS
Toney
had a nice little comeback too. Nice little
Yes.
curl route.
Yeah, right.
When have you seen MVS run a curl route?
But isn't that amazing though that Josh Allen with MVS on the team, like his main go-to guys are the tight end certainly, like Kelsey, but not MVS. Going
Yeah.
to other guys not named MVS, whether that be Samuel or Shakur or Keon Coleman,
James Cook out of the backfield.
James Cook out of the backfield. It wasn't Rashee Rice and MVS. Like they've moved some things around. They got rid of their guys, but their players that they have said, hey, you need to step up and play well in the
So
absence
far,
of these
have.
players, have stepped up and played well.
Has anyone played with 3 better quarterbacks in the history of the NFL than MVS?
It's had a pretty good run.
Dude, no doubt.
No,
man.
like without
No, you're right.
without like one in between. Like
No, you're absolutely right.
Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes to Josh Allen.
Like,
Pretty good.
The only one is Jerry, and I wouldn't count Rich Gannon in that group of 3 that Sterling
Yeah.
just looked up because you had Steve Young, Joe
Well, they're
Montana.
all league MVPs though.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
Yeah,
with
you're
Rich
right.
Gannon, so
Yeah.
that's 3
Yeah.
league MVP. Did he have one in between? Did
That's what I'm trying to think
Rice
of.
go straight
Well,
from
I think he went straight
Montana
from
the
to
other side of
Young to Gannon?
Jerry Rice
Yeah.
might have helped some of those guys be MVP.
That's true.
No, you don't
And this
say.
other way around with MVS.
Yeah. Josh Allen, if he wins MVP this year, I mean, MVS would play with 3 different
Yeah, I always count
MVP winning
MVS
quarterbacks.
Wow.
Jerry
That's-
Rice.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's I wonder how many players in the history, if Josh Allen wins MVP this year, would have played with 3 different MVP quarterbacks in a year that they won MVP.
Yeah.
Because MVS played with Aaron Rodgers when he won MVP, played with Patrick Mahomes winning MVP, and
Jerry did play
playing with Josh Allen,
with
you know,
Rich Gannon that year.
if he wins MVP
He did?
this year.
Jerry did play with Rich Gannon that year.
In
Yeah.
02,
Wow. Yeah.
Sunday Night Football this week, Bills will be at the Ravens. Obviously a monstrous
That's a
game for the Ravens.
Huge game for the Ravens.
They're at the Texans after that.
Yeah.
They have 3 road games in a row at Ravens, at Texans, at Jets.
Bills always do this, though. It's an annual tradition that they look like gangbusters
Yeah.
in September, and then we always have the same
because they're
ending.
not just winning;
Right.
they dominate teams. We're like, oh my
they
god,
do.
2 years
Buffalo.
ago on Monday night,
They come to
played,
Arrowhead all the time and win.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the regular season.
Oh yeah, I've already counted that as a loss. Chiefs are going to
I
Buffalo and
agree.
losing. It's a regular season against the Bills.
It's
They're
their
gonna
Super
lose.
Bowl.
Yeah, they're going to lose that game.
Well, that's probably why the Bengals lost. They had the Super Bowl hangover.
That's exactly
against
right.
Washington.
Well, because they lost the Super Bowl.
They lost the
Usually
Super Bowl.
teams
It's
that
a
lose the
Super
Super
Bowl
Bowl,
hangover, yeah.
they don't return
Carried
to
for
the
a
Super
long
Bowl.
time. They just held that
I just
over.
remember they beat the Titans like 41-7 with Tannehill, and everyone that season had said, "Oh,
Yep.
you know, these are sneaky Titans," and it ended up being they were terrible.
Well, when the Bills came in 2 years ago with Von Miller
Yeah.
and the Chiefs were up 4, and Josh Allen
True.
had the last drive through the touchdown pass, then Mahomes got intercepted. The Bills were like 5-1, 6-1, or something like that, and just beat the Chiefs. And then they went 1-5 over like the next 6 weeks because they had won their Super Bowl and they were enjoying the parade and hanging the banner after that.
One thing I will say to keep an eye on: Von Miller's back.
Yeah, he looked
Von Miller's healthy.
good. He looked good.
He has a sack in all 3 of the Bills' games this season. That does make the defense, because with him, Ed Oliver, Rousseau,
Rousseau's been really
Get
good.
some
he's
pass
been really
rushers.
good. I mean, and again, they're not the biggest names, but they're talented. And when Matt Milano comes back, that's going to be a nice boost for that defense. I don't know how long it's going to be out for. It's going to be a while, but still.
I saw Next Gen Stats had this stat about Trevor Lawrence last night against the Buffalo Bills defense. That Trevor Lawrence is from Next Gen Stats. Trevor Lawrence is the first quarterback ever to throw an interception to a guy who died.
You did
So
it.
that was Next Gen Stats that had that one. So
That's an
last night.
interesting stat.
Yeah, so first one ever.
Well, that we know of.
That's a
On
good
the
point.
field.
That's on the field, yes, that's true.
On the field.
In an NFL game.
Yeah.
With a player that also died in an NFL game.
And maybe
his
ended
first
another
one.
guy's career.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, add that to take that, Elias. You know,
See
bringing
about
that
Tua
up.
on that one.
Take that, ESPN NFL Pro. All right.
The league is great. It's fantastic. It's fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are predictable. Chiefs get all the calls, blah, blah, whatever. But, man, last week when we were looking over the games, like, there are some good teams who have to go on the road. And it's hard on the road, to go win some of these games. And we saw some really flat performances on the road by some. And then you saw, like you said, amazing performances by the worst team in the league on the road or the Broncos on the road. It's just been really tough to figure out what's going to happen. It's exciting. And, listen, football is crazy right now. I saw some numbers. I know a lot of us aren't super excited about Friday night college football, right? So last week, 2 weeks ago, K-State played Arizona on there. And this was Fox's first big Fox Friday night because they used to have SmackDown or something on, and they got rid of that.
It sounded like Tim Brando's first Friday night ever.
So they
Still sounds
there was
like
2 million people,
Yeah.
big number.
It was a
Nice.
big number that for a case.
Nebraska, Illinois was like 4.3 million. It was like 60% more than the K-State one. So get used to it.
Yeah.
Fox wants football on Friday night, and they're partners with the Big 12 and the Big 10. They're going to put these things on there, and it's how it's going to be because people are watching this stuff. The Chiefs number was the third highest, whatever, Sunday night in September ever or something, or something like that.
See the fourth.
Every week is something. These are monstrous
You
numbers.
see the fourth highest rated city for Sunday night football. On
I
Sunday
saw
night?
it went Kansas City, St. Louis, Atlanta. What was the fourth?
Cincy.
Cincy, of course.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Stephen got mad when I said this before. Or Jake did. I think Jake did. Cincinnati and Kansas City have a lot of things in common.
Shut your mouth. You are so stupid.
They're about the same size. Okay, they're about the same size. They do have people who live on both sides of 2 states, whatever, all that kind of stuff. They have NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams, and they don't have NBA and all that stuff. So it's kind of like that. And they love watching sports. The Royals or the Kansas City's always up on Olympic this or Olympic that. It's like, what are these people doing? This is what we like to do. We like to watch sports. We don't have lots of other things to do. We're not on the ocean. We're not surfing. We're not doing whatever. Cincinnati, I'll tell you what, Kansas City watches the Bengals games too. We like that because we like watching football. And it's not surprising at all that Bengals fans were watching, praying for the Chiefs to lose because that's the way it works.
Yeah. And Kansas City watches everything.
All of it.
When it comes to the Final Four, it's Raleigh, Durham, Louisville, and Kansas City.
Yeah,
For like
always.
20 years in a row, those have been like the top 3 cities. Raleigh, Durham, in some form. I mean, it's Kansas City
And it's
or Louisville.
as
or
a
Raleigh,
reminder to
Durham.
people, it's not number of people; it's the share of people.
Yeah.
There are many more people watching in New York City, but
Right.
there's many more people in New York City.
Yes.
These towns that are our size, these 30 to 40 metro-sized markets, this is what we
And then
do. We watch sports.
ESPN's college basketball ratings over the season, Kansas City's always in the top 3. It's like those same 3 with the tournament and the ESPN games throughout the year for college basketball. It's Raleigh, Durham, Louisville, and Kansas
We
City.
love our football in these towns. We love the National Football League.
And SEC Network, Johnsonville Johnson sausages, cornhole. I
love
think,
that one. Is that
I
the one?
think
Is that right?
that's-
Is that what it is too?
I think
Yeah.
that's got to be top share too. Because it's me.
I'll
You're
tell you what,
always watching it?
If Fox is going to have more and more millions of people watching, then I would say they probably need to retire Tim Brando. At some
Someone's
point.
got to do these games.
They
They could do someone better.
He said that Illinois had a miscommunication in the backfield when the quarterback had a play action. He went, and he pulls it at the miscommunication there by the
Seen better days.
and his coach goes, well, that's a play action. That's actually the design here. And he goes out there and he's picking up this blitzer right there.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, partners. Thank you for the correction there. Yeah, it looked like it was a miscommunication.
He may be a few years past.
Play action, man.
Might be a few years past the deal.
Yeah, it was and then Friday
On
night
that.
with was it that Friday when Avery Johnson forgot the time heading into
I think
to
so,
halftime?
yeah.
So did Tim
man.
Brando. It was the halftime and well, it looks like Avery Johnson forgot what the time was. Like, yeah, 10 seconds later, you finally got there too.
Yeah, but
Whatever.
they're going to have big
whatever.
games on
Just
those
put it on mute
things.
and watch it.
And you know
There's-
what?
yeah,
And if
it's
they get
huge.
that many people watching, they
Yeah.
might get a better announcer on it.
Well, and they're going to get really good games because if people are watching it, they're going to put better games up there. And because then on that Friday night, they're previewing their Fox Big Noon kickoff show the next morning.
I was pretty amazed with the number they got for the K-State game. When I saw, now listen, Nebraska, Illinois went out of the wire. And, there's a lot of Nebraska fans, Illinois, Chicago people, all
And
that
there are
stuff.
people that still hate watching Nebraska, too.
They love to watch them lose. Yes, that's out there. And so, there was 63% more than week one.
That's crazy.
That's a pretty big number. So
That's unbelievable.
they're going to have those things on there. And I know we don't like it. We like our high school
I know,
football
I'm
and
not a
stuff
fan
like
of it.
that. They won't make the same teams play on there all the time, which is important. They don't want to, wear some, team out, give them 4 Fridays.
Do they rotate Big 12, Big 10, Big 12, Big 10?
I don't know
on
how that thing
It
works
just happens
with
to be
them.
the last couple of times it's rotated.
Yeah, they've only had a couple, so I
Yeah.
can look ahead of that schedule because they're
Yeah.
not moving them. They're you're playing on Friday.
Yeah. There's no flex.
No, they're not flexing that because you want to irritate a coach. There you
Yeah,
go.
No kidding. Yeah. But I mean, it's a big advertising for them the next day. Like we're watching the Nebraska Illinois game on Friday, and my son's like, "College game days at Ohio State." I said, "No, that's Fox's game day. That's Fox's
Northwestern
Big Noon kickoff,
Maryland
their game
is
day."
now. Let's see. This is the 27th. Washington Rutgers. I'll bet it does smaller numbers than that.
That's coast to coast, baby.
Yeah.
That's the entire country. That's a swath of the entire country. Washington and
And
Rutgers.
then
Is
they
that
got
one
a
in
Michigan
New Jersey?
State at Oregon on Friday the 4th.
That'll be a fun green one.
believe that's on
Is that one in
Fox.
Jersey? The one this Friday, or is that in Washington?
It's
who's
in
going,
Jersey.
Who's going cross country? The Huskies
Washington's
are.
coming across, man.
Oh man,
They're gonna
Go
see all the
Atlantic
oceans.
City, baby.
Take Rutgers.
You like Rutgers?
I don't know.
What time is the game?
7.
Oh, p.m.
I don't know.
Not as much anymore. If it was 11 a.m. start, yeah.
I don't know. Last was it Thursday or Friday night when Stanford went to Syracuse and won? Because I was like, Syracuse looks good. Stanford's going across the country to Buffalo or to Syracuse, New York. Yeah, take Syracuse.
I
And
just
then
wonder if the
Stanford
night
freaking won.
game gives them just enough time to get acclimated versus an
Yeah.
11 a.m. Because
K-State, well, there's some other, ESPN has a Friday night game too with some of these too. So there'll be some weeks where they're everyone. There'll be a couple games on. Houston at TCU, that's an ESPN game. Utah at Arizona State, that's ESPN. That's a little 9:30 action in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah, Houston.
Ooh, Oklahoma State BYU is a Friday nighter on ESPN. That's a big game.
Is that one in Provo?
No, it's Provo.
Oh, how about that? Corey Anderson will be
9:15.
there with his shirt off, all in orange.
It's middle
Living
of
right there,
October.
gets to go see his Oklahoma State Cowboys.
We'll
there?
see
Look
how
at that.
cold it is. I don't
Big
know.
guy.
I don't know if Corey's going to take the shirt off.
Tarps
Take
off.
it off, man. Why
Tarps
keep it
off?
on? Why keep it on? Take it
Oregon,
off, man.
Oregon has to play at Purdue. Oregon's got a couple Fridays on the road,
Oh, I think Oregon will be fine playing at Purdue.
and then they've got a Friday at home against Michigan State. That is kind of unfair to Oregon, making them play 2 Fridays in a row. Whatever.
That's fine. But you're playing Purdue and Michigan State. I think you're fine.
You'd say Michigan State's not any good?
I'm
I didn't hear you saying that to Adam Teicher earlier.
No, I said it off the air.
Okay.
No, they're getting Michigan State at home. They got to go to Purdue, which is fine. Give me the total on whatever Oregon's points are to score that day. I'll take the over.
You got the over?
against Purdue. Purdue's defense looks really good. Plus, at least their players hustle after guys when
These
they're
games
running
are
down the
wild.
field.
Iowa, UCLA.
It's so weird in the Big Ten. All right, the Big Ten is weird with
Fact.
these new teams. That's a fact.
Fact.
And they should stop playing Friday Night Football.
They ain't stopping,
Fiction.
buddy.
Okay.
They ain't stopping.
Hey everyone, get into Greenlight Dispensary before the month is over because this September they're giving away a bunch of different deals to celebrate Kansas City's favorite football and baseball team being in action in the month of September and hopefully October for our favorite baseball team. Today they're giving away 2 for $25 select squeeze beverage enhancers. So get on into Greenlight Dispensary today before the rush happens, before the weekend of football and baseball, and get your best deals that you possibly can today. They also have unmatched first-time customer benefits and are voted the best loyalty program in Missouri because the points you rack up can be used as cash on any of their products, not the ones that they pick and choose. So go online to greenlightdispensary.com, that's greenlightdispensary.com, and there you can select whether you want to pick up your order through the drive-thru or the grab-and-go window to save time. And also, when you go into one of their 4 Casey area locations, if it's your first time, mention 810 sent you, and you can get 20% off your first order. You can go into any one of those 4 locations at Bannister Road in 435, Nolan Road in Independence, 135th and State Line is my location, and they have one in Harrisonville, Missouri as well. So get ready for game time at Greenlight and celebrate Kansas City's favorite football team. Check them out online at greenlightdispensary.com. That's greenlightdispensary.com.
not stopping. Take that journey.
Lebo.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson is with the Chiefs organization next year.
I mean, it's a real possibility.
I like that question. That's a really good one.
That year to decompress,
I like that
just
one a lot.
get saved. Either that, or if Nick Saban was still coaching, he'd be at Alabama for some reason. Yeah. Let's go fact. He's back somehow. Passing game coordinator. Or something.
What's his buyout is the question. Because if
that's
it's
a
a
good
big,
call.
unimportant.
It doesn't
Yeah, it
matter.
doesn't matter. We don't
Shad
care.
Khan is, if he
you're
needs to
right.
pay it, he'll pay it.
I'll go
you
with
know.
Lebo as well.
Makes every bumper made in the world for cars. This guy has all the money in the world.
Yeah, I'm going to go fact. I think that's a fun one.
Yeah, I think it's a fact, too. I think Doug Peterson is somehow with the Chiefs next year in some sort of
Yeah.
capacity.
Not a fun one for Doug Peterson, but I think it's a maybe
It
is.
might
I
be
don't
more
know.
fun for
It's
him,
like, you know what? I'm still
actually.
getting paid, and now I can go and try to win a Super Bowl.
Hey, we saw him at Tahoe.
I mean, well, the guy did win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, so we did see him at Tahoe. We saw him sitting on a different table than his quarterback, and they didn't even acknowledge each other.
Yes, they did. Stop starting rumors. They totally acknowledge each other.
From what I saw,
They were laughing.
Doug Peterson was sitting there with his boy and his family, and Trevor Lawrence walks over with his fiance and sits down at the table right next to him, and they don't even acknowledge each other.
They definitely did.
Then later
Jason.
on,
Lebo, he is starting stuff now.
30 minutes later, I
Okay, Dov.
had a stopwatch
Dov
on.
Kleiman.
I had a stopwatch on. 30 minutes later, Doug Peterson's son reaches over and says, "Hey, Trevor, what's up?" and shakes his hand. And Trevor's like, and then Doug Peterson
I didn't
looks
see you
back
there.
and smiles, and then goes right back to the table having a conversation he was with, and then Trevor Lawrence goes right back to the conversation. I'm just saying, like, they may have hung out going to that place that night. I don't know. I'm just saying that one interaction that I watched between Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence.
They're actually such
seemed
good
like,
friends.
Seemed like they had been married
Hang
for
on,
20 years.
unspoken.
Right, I'm saying they're
Seemed like-
such good friends. They know they've seen each other too much, so
Exactly.
maybe that morning they just
They
little
looked like
separation.
they had been married 20 years. Like, no, we can just sit here awkwardly. It's not a big deal. Anyway, go ahead.
I wish I
Dylan.
would have done this. I didn't do this question, but fact or fiction, Doug Peterson is a much better head coach than Nick Sirianni. That's a fact.
Oh, that's a fact.
That's
Yeah,
obvious,
a
so we're
fact.
not doing that one.
That's an easy one. Yeah.
it's a fact.
All right, Dylan.
Yep.
The Bengals are absolutely cooked, and they missed the playoffs.
Ooh, this both.
I'm gonna reverse jinx it. It's fiction. They will come back and somehow make the playoffs because they are the bane of our existence.
I am going. It's because it's what they do. I'll say fiction. This is just simply what they do. They're
Well,
in the,
just for fun, let's say fact.
It is a fact. They're
There you
cooked,
go.
That's a
dude.
fact.
Todd's on fire.
Dog, they're cooked.
Cooked.
They missed the playoffs.
Let's revisit
the
this one,
concern
too.
the concern last night was that defense was getting torched.
Yeah,
It was not good.
that's why.
Yeah, right. That's the concern.
And
But-
you haven't even paid Jamar or T or Trey, and your defense is getting cooked. Have fun.
Yeah. We'll see. I'll lead this one off. I'm down by 2 though.
That
Dylan
that
and I tied
window
at 2.
is painted shut at this point.
Todd's got 4 out of 5 so far.
Cleveland's
fire.
good at this. Jason,
Yep.
I know your lies.
the Bills are the team the Chiefs should be most nervous about.
In the entire NFL or the AFC?
The entire NFL.
Either way, that's a fact.
Yeah, I'll go fact as well.
What
You
about
just I'll,
Todd
I'll
first?
go out of order. I'll say fact too.
That one is a fact. Yeah, that's a fact.
Who cares?
That was the.
Who cares?
That's a fact.
Yeah,
It's on
who cares
PBS.
about it?
Watch
Yeah.
out, Copernicus back there skipping turns.
Let's have Todd go first here.
Yeah, that was the easy one.
Okay.
All right, Lebo,
Halfway through.
I'm ready to see more FAU snaps.
Florida Atlantic. What have they done lately?
Felix Enudike Uzama.
Okay.
I'm going to say
Different
fiction on this
FAU.
one.
I'll go fiction too. I got to catch up.
Fact.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to see more FAU snaps. I get it. He was unblocked,
Sack
so
fumble. He got there.
yeah, he already got there. Like, it can't be worse than what Dana has. I like Mike Dana a lot, but there's been a lack of pressure.
Did anybody on the 3rd down and goal for the Chiefs when they tried to do the corn dog motion with Xavier Worthy and Mahomes rolled to his right and Judon chased him out of bounds and it was incomplete and they kicked the field? Did anybody go, Judon, nice play, but he was unblocked? So
Yeah, no.
like,
I think they should have
really
tried
good,
to block him.
really good play. Yeah, you
I
would
noticed on
think.
that one I would block that guy.
Yeah, it's like Matthew Judon went unblocked. By the way, on 2nd and 3rd down, Judon was unblocked.
Yeah.
Not sure why, but it's a choice. It's certainly a choice.
By the way, if you give up a touchdown on a corn dog play as the opposing team, you should be maybe fired
they
as
did
the
not.
At this point,
as the
yeah.
defensive coordinator.
They did not. They were ready for that.
I was gonna say, if you haven't seen that and don't come to expect it,
Yeah.
You don't have to
Again,
watch
they
all 22. Just watch NFL films.
They were
There you go.
ready for that. All right, Dylan, you lead us off here. It's 5 for Lebo, 4 for me, 3 for Dylan.
Dylan, you know what? Sam Darnold or not, I'm ready to say the Vikings are a really solid team.
That's kind of confusing because Sam Darnold is,
Would be a reason why, but
or not a reason, even if the team around him is that good.
that's right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think, fact, because of that reason alone. If Sam Darnold's cooking with them, then they should be a good team all around.
I know how much you like the Texans, and the Vikings doing that to the Texans is a fact in and of itself, even if that game in a vacuum. Lebo?
I think they are good. Fact.
Yeah, I think they're a really solid
It's
team.
a
I'm
lot
ready.
to them.
I'm ready to say that. You beat the Niners, you beat the Texans.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not high on Sam Darnold, but if you're doing that, you're doing something right. You can't be a bad team. So, yeah, it's a fact. Jason,
Yes.
expectations for K-State should change after getting hammered to BYU.
I'm going to say fiction. I don't think they should change. I think they can still win the Big 12. That was K-State got beat by K-State on Friday night. And I don't mean they beat themselves. I mean, that was a very K-State victory of defensive score.
Yeah, they do that
amazing
twice a year
punt
to other
return.
teams.
That was like, wow, K-State just lost.
Very
to
rare
Kansas
for them
State.
to lose the turnover battle like that
Yeah,
and do that. So
I think that was a rough night.
they just need to make the Big 12 championship game. They feel like they can do that. Nothing changes.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, it's fiction. I'm surprised. I thought at least someone would say
Total
fact.
fabrication.
No, they got to keep. You just got to wash it and move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And
Still a good
no,
team. It's
there's not going to be two undefeated teams playing in the Big 12.
I'm gonna go on a
tournament,
limb here.
Championship game.
I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say the rest of this year, the opposing team to K-State does not score 24 points in 4 minutes.
That doesn't happen.
I'm going to go. Maybe I'm wrong, but in the final 2 minutes of the first half and the first 2 minutes of the second half, that team does not go on a 24-0
The disappointing thing was they didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, 6
That's
points,
what
yeah.
they got to work on.
Yep, for sure.
All right, Lebo.
By the way, score with the final 3 to go. Lebo's up 7 to 6 to 5. I got 6.
It's a
Dylan
tie.
has 5.
We might still have the tiebreaker.
It's a tie. Sounds like a tie to me.
All
Lebo,
added up, yep.
it's time for a QB change at Kansas.
Boy, I think we should do this weekly. We've done it the last.
This might be weekly.
We did it
yeah.
last week. And
I
we're,
think it is actually, but I'm going to say fiction because I don't. It's family weekend, first game at Arrowhead. I don't think it's going to happen. So my heart says fact, but I'll say fiction for the record.
Well, his family used to work at Arrowhead, so maybe that is a little bit of a fact that it's time to go to Cole Ballard, who grew up in the Arrowhead facility when Chris was here.
So what was your answer?
He said fact.
Fact.
Oh.
that it is time.
We have a half and half, Jason.
Most important answer of your life
This is huge.
because it's the
like-
next one.
It's like the 16th player in your fantasy draft. Oh, I don't know. Should I take this guy that's never going to play or that guy that's never going to play? I don't know.
It's like midnight.
Why
in the
don't we
player
just
pool.
do the bonus the whole time?
I think this
need
is like
these
midnight
12.
with the player pool with Petro, NCAA.
That's
this
exactly right. The
this
19th
guy in the
player.
13 seed and this thing.
Yep,
What
the
if they win a
19th
game?
player of
Was
your
it
20
Jack
picks.
Golke or whatever last
Oh,
year?
right. Yeah.
Matters, eh?
Curtis got him, and it was a great pick. What's the question?
Fact
So
means change.
I'm going to say fiction. In 2 weeks, they've got the bye week, and if this is what it looks like, then it will be Ballard. So I'm going to say fiction.
Agreed. So it's fiction. It's
Dylan's
not
so
time.
wrong.
Not yet. Not yet.
Only KU fan here, and I'm the
So
doom
did
and gloom.
Todd and
back
I
there.
agreed?
Yeah.
Okay. So Todd has 8, I've got 7, and Dylan has 5.
You're still tied.
Still tied,
Yeah.
though. Still,
I'm in range.
Yeah.
Todd has 8, I've got 7, and Dylan is tied with both of us at 5.
Yeah.
2 left. Dylan leads us off.
Dylan. Wanya Morris starts at left tackle the next 3 weeks.
Regardless of injury, not.
Obviously, if injury
I just wanna
happens,
make
yeah.
sure
If
that-
injury happens, then
I just
obviously
want to make sure you didn't
he
step
will
up
not
and
be.
be like,
For the
nope.
Chiefs, and like, he's not traded or something. Okay.
No, I think there's a chance he can get
The
injured.
team will still be in Kansas City, correct? Yeah,
Yeah, they're not moving.
They haven't moved. What Kansas City is it? Are we saying on the Missouri side or the
Who
Dylan?
are the two opponents after the Chargers? Is Bosa?
bye week and 49ers?
I'm gonna
Oh,
say.
excuse me, Saints by 49ers.
Ooh,
Saints
boy.
bye week.
And it's
49ers.
at Saints, right? On Monday night.
No,
It's here.
It's a
Oh,
home game.
okay, good.
Because they don't get to play with the side of the Super Bowl 3 years in a row.
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
they played in Arizona, played in Vegas, and then if they'd have played in New Orleans,
Which
this
ones
year-
that he is gonna continue to start, Stu?
Fact is start.
I'll go
Fact
with
is a
fact.
start. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to say fact.
Fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
say
a fact.
Yeah, it's his job.
That is a fact. It may be a fact, but it's inexplicable.
Yep. Well, I mean, according to Chris Collinsworth, it was his job all
the whole time.
along. If it wasn't for that
Shocking that no
knee
one
bruise.
missed that. You guys are reading me like a book.
9 to 8 to 6. This
Let's
is
go.
as high of a combined score.
Last
as
one
we've
for the
had.
bonus. Anderson.
Yep.
Cole Reagans gets 8+ strikeouts tonight.
That's a fact, baby.
Fact.
That is a fact.
Fact.
That's a fact.
Yeah, CJ
Cole
Abrams.
Reagans, the stopper, baby.
Abrams put
I used
150
7 on all
bucks
my
on that.
parlays, but you know,
I did
Abrams,
8+ on mine, so let's get
Abrams
it.
has
Let's get it.
150 bucks on that one. Definitely does. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. What's the tiebreaker?
Guess how many wins each local college football team gets?
still doesn't get this, but whatever.
to 9-7, so it's time for a tiebreaker.
Dylan does not know me at all.
He doesn't.
7.
10 to 9-7.
Dylan.
7 out of 12, that's still more than half. I mean, you know?
But if you were 7 out of 12, if the Royals were 7 out of 12 with runners in scoring position the last 6 weeks,
Well, unfortunately, the Royals are 7 and 12 in September.
yeah,
so
not good.
They are
All
Dylan
right.
right now.
How are we doing this? What do we say first?
So guess how many wins each local football college gets at this point
All right,
now,
so
right?
where are we starting? Which team we starting with?
We'll start with K-State.
8.
I wrote down 8.
8.
Oh,
So you guys are all one off.
would you got him 9?
I still think they get 9.
Okay.
Okay.
Still think they get 9. So that'd be 9 and
Minus
3.
1. All right.
9
Yep,
and
so
3.
we're all -1 now.
We'll go with KU next.
I put 5.
6.
He got him at 9.
5.
I went 6. I
Yeah,
still think they made the
I'm at
bowl.
0.
Mizzou.
-2.
I put 10 on that.
9.
11.
It's 10, baby. They're
I got
still
one.
getting double
We
digit.
all
Wait.
3 got 1. Or did you get 2?
I think you all tied.
Yeah, we all tied with getting 1 right.
Yeah.
Oh.
I guess we're tied. Or I win. I got Mizzou right.
Who
So
knows?
that's worth more for you.
Lebo wins.
Yay!
Well, if we all tie in the tiebreaker, shouldn't the tiebreaker go to the person who was actually leading in the regular
That's
round?
me.
Lebo wins if he says Kansas City.
Is that what?
You have to say you know what you need to say.
What is it? Kansas City.
Lebo wins.
All right. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. The program with Seren Petro comes up next. We got a little Arrowhead Pride with Pete Sweeney, Jack Johnson tonight. Bethany on the mic and Covell Sports Night all coming your way here on Sports Radio 810.